Good evening, everybody. Welcome to episode 42 of the Drew Pavlu Show. 42 days into our 100 days streaming journey. And listen, today is about being a sensitive young man. It's a safe space for blokes who are quite sensitive right now and just maybe even need an ear to ear to listen to them. And so this today's stream is all about the blokes who've been left behind. In fact, I'm one of them. And it's a very sad thing, fellas. It's a very sad thing when the world passes you by. And I want to just tell everybody, don't ever give up. Don't ever give up. Never give in to the so-called black dog, as they say, because freedom is always on the horizon. And that's how it is. That's how it is. If you're watching, please remember to leave a like on the YouTube video. If you're watching on Twitter, go to my YouTube video. It's very important you go there. I'm just quickly going to post the link up for some of the latecomers. And as I said, today's stream is all about sensitivity and just being sensitive young men. Yesterday we're smoking a cigar on the stream. We're not doing that today. Today we're actually a lot more sensitive. But that's okay. Everybody is different. Everybody has different approaches. Let me know how the audio is, guys. Drew Pavlu Show. Just going to post up the link, my friends. 1 second. How's everybody's day been? I can't say mine was the best. Sometimes, as I said, the world will just, unfortunately not always be on our side, but it's okay. It's okay. As I said, scream if you love Romania. Scream if you love Romania. I love Romania. As Mr. F said, never ever kill yourself. Let me get the comments on the screen. First comment by Max. Long day, just got on the train. Thank you for joining. Thank you for joining, Max, from the train. XD, g'day, Mr. Drew, don't kill yourself. No, we never will. Never, guys, never. How you doing, 123, Max? How are you going, Max? How was the day at work? As I said, this stream today is for the sensitive young blokes of the world. And the sensitive blokes, Max Hooper is a sensitive bloke, of course. Tired, very tired. Of course, we're all tired. We're all tired. But you know what? Never give in. Never give in. It's as simple as that. We never give in. Not since many years have we been going through such difficult times, my friends. But just again, we never give in. Never give in. Fucking long. Yeah, no. Very late finish, Max, to be doing till 9 p.m. I reported Noah's YouTube and Patreon. DM me on Discord for the copy paste if you feel a report is warranted. Noah Sampson, well said. I think that's very well. I think that's very well warranted. I'm certainly in the mood for destroying the people who piss me off. So I think that's very well warranted. Let's see these people get reported. It's very important. Favorite video games. I was just playing Hearts of Iron 4. Very important game. I actually beat Japan in 1942, and I beat Nazi Germany at the end of 1943. Possum Nation, good morning. Good morning, Possum Nation. What we doing happened today? It's Memorial Day. Is it really? Good luck to our American friends. I give you all our best luck. That's great to hear. I'll go through some of the news today, my friends. I'll go through some of the news. Let me bring up the news. The New York Times, a very illustrious publication. Just going to bring up the news. Here we go. How's this, guys? Can you see? We're going through hit the like button. Very important. Possum Nation has hit the nail on the head. If you're watching on YouTube, you have to hit the like button, my friends. No more white supremacist interviews now, Drew, I hope. No, I have not been interviewing them. I've been debating them. And I challenged them. And I actually opposed them. But I've been very reflective. I've been very reflective today. Very reflective on life and society. And so that's why I named the stream. The sensitive young male chat space for the sensitive young males. Oh, actually, that's a very good one. The beautiful Victorian machete band. They just pick up and wield themselves. Very very powerful. Let's get the machete band up. Let's get the machete band. How powerful, guys. Machetes to be banned. Wait 1 second. I get the news up. Here's the most important news to cover of the day. 1 second. I'll put it on the screen. Very important. Salute to the new president, Nicolas Sardan. We love Nicolas Sardan. Kudos to Drew for debating people he disagrees with. Thank you, Malachi. Machetes to be banned from sale in Victoria in the wake of Northland Shopping Centre brawl. Involved in the knife attack. Instant fix. Crime down 3,000%. Exactly. All you have to do is ban the machetes, and then suddenly there are no more machetes in the country. 4 males have been charged, and another was taken to hospital in a serious but stable condition after a gang brawl at Northland Shopping Centre on Sunday. The Victorian government will ban the sale of machetes from midday Wednesday. Wow. How will people get by without their machetes? BBC. Amazon tribe sues New York Times over story it says led to porn addict claims. Is that a real? Send me that link. Machete ban law. What you do when you can't actually do anything effective? What about the people who have to cut back scrub on their property? Well said, Max. Think of all our beautiful law-going machete owners. They're a very important subgroup of the society. Drew, as a black man, I'm not a black man, but thank you for that. An Amazonian tribe has sued the New York Times over a report about the community gaining access to high-speed internet, which it claims led to its members being labeled as porn addicts. Beautiful. We'll get that one up. It's important that we go through all the important news of the day. Okay, I found it. Okay, beautiful. Very important. Brazilian tribe sues the New York Times for allegedly portraying members as porn addict. Defamation suit claims the Marubu people were depicted as tech-addled and porn-obsessed after the introduction of the internet. An indigenous tribe from the Brazilian Amazon has sued the New York Times, saying the newspaper's reporting on the tribe's first exposure to the internet led to its members being widely portrayed as technology-addled and addicted to pornography. The Marubo tribe of the remote Yavari Valley, a community of about 2,000 people, filed the defamation lawsuit seeking hundreds of millions of dollars in damages this week in a court in Los Angeles. Honestly, respect the hustle to the lawyer who literally seems... I mean, there must have been some lawyer who went all the way out to fucking the Amazon to talk about ambulance chasing. Respect to the fucking grind. Drew, you're a black man. You should be proud. Thank you. Do cane cutters use machetes? If so, this ban is very un-Australian. Very well said, Max. But guys, talk about ambulance chasing. Imagine literally hopping on a flight and flying all the way to the remote Amazon rainforest to convince members of a barely contacted tribe to sue the New York Times. Amazing stuff. It also names TMZ and Yahoo as defendants, alleging that their stories amplified and sensationalized the Times reporting and smeared the tribe in the process. Disturbing stuff. The Marubu tribe of the remote Yavari Valley, only 2,000 people. The suit says the Times' June 2024 story by reporter Jack Nickas on how the group was handling the introduction of satellite service through Starlink portrayed the Marubu people as community unable to handle basic exposure to the internet, highlighting allegations the youth had become consumed by pornography. Yes, New York Times is on an amazing run recently. The New York Times had the recent Hassan Piker progressive mind in a mega body story. They're on an amazing run, and let's not stop them while they're on this amazing run. CCP is doing shenanigans again. Chinese ambassador blasts Darwin port lease plan is ethically questionable. I didn't see that. Let me bring that up. Port Darwin. Holy shit! Fuck off. Xiao Chen, literally fuck off. Holy shit. Oh, he visited the port. Fuck off. Okay, beautiful. Okay, let's bring this up on the stream. Beautiful. This is even more beautiful. Chinese ambassador blasts Darwin port lease plan as ethically questionable. As we all know, the Chinese communists are the height of ethics. The Chinese communists have so committed to the rule of law and the most pristine ethics, as we all know. I'm banning a guy who did the N-word in the stream. Guys, no slurs in my chat. No slurs in the chat. I don't want our video to get taken down. If you're doing slurs in the chat, I'm banning you, okay? Simple stuff. We're not going to have slurs in the chat because I don't want to get taken down and banned. Yeah, so in the machete ban, it's defined as a cutting-edge knife blade longer than 20 centimeters. No more bread knives. It's fucked up. So as long as it's a penetrating blade. 5 of the 6 biggest mines in Australia are owned by foreigners. Deport this man. Deport this man. Look at his fucking head. Deport him. Deport Zhao Chen. We don't want him in the country. Deport the Chinese ambassador. Declare him persona non grata. What does he add to the country? Nothing. He's fucking annoying. China's ambassador to Australia has visited the port of Darwin and has taken a shot at the federal government over its plan to take back the port lease from a Chinese company. It's basically very simple, guys. If the Chinese government is saying that this is bad, then it's good. It's literally as simple as that. If the Chinese government is complaining, oh no, just let us have your sensitive ports. No, sorry, we're taking it back. Fuck off. The strategically important Northern Australian port has been a hotly debated national security issue since it was leased to Chinese firm Landbridge by the Northern Territory government for 99 years in 2015. During this year's federal election campaign, both Labor and the Coalition made dueling pledges to get the port back into Australian hands. Federal Labor has not given a firm indication of exactly how it will do that, but has repeatedly said it has been speaking with Australian firms to possibly take over the lease. Ambassador Zhao Chen published a statement on his website on Sunday, days after making a trip to Darwin, where he said he visited the port and met with staff at Landbridge. A decade ago, the Landbridge Group secured the lease for the Port of Darwin through an open and transparent bidding process, fully compliant with Australian laws and market principles. Fuck off. Don't talk about market principles when you're literally communists. Fuck off. Just literally fuck off. You're literally communist. My friend asked me who my favorite streamer was, and I said Drew Pavlu. He is a sensitive young man who identifies as a Noah Smith Democrat. You should watch his 6 a.m. streams. Beautiful. I'm sorry to my North American friends. I'm very sorry that my streams begin at 6 a.m. for you guys. I normally stream at the end of the day here in Australia. So, for example, right now it's 9 p.m. here in Australia. As I said, I will try and change my streaming time to a time more friendly to the North American audience. I will try to do that. That's on my bucket list. I just need to fix my sleeping schedule. But yeah, there's nothing more genius than watching 6 a.m. streams, my friend. So if you're an American or a Canadian and you're catching my 6 a.m. streams, I literally salute you. You're braver than the troops. Thank you. Yeah, seriously, it's really fucking simple. If you are literally the Chinese Communist Party, fuck off talking about market principles. It's literally as simple as that. You're literally a Communist Party. You're Marxist-Leninists. Sorry, you don't believe in the market, so fuck off. It's literally simple. Over the past 10 years, Landbridge Group has made significant investments in maintaining and building Darwin Port's infrastructure. Yet, so they can try and make it into a base for the Chinese in the event of a invasion. That's what they apparently want to do. How beautiful. How beautiful. Give them the port. Just hand it over. Cameron Murray debunks you. Very true. I talked to Cameron Murray today. Okay, then let us buy a port in PRC, preferably Hainan Island. Dibs on Sanya. Thanks for watching over us while we sleep peacefully. Very powerful. Guys, don't you think if the Chinese Communist Party want the port of Darwin, let Australia lease a port in Hainan. Give us a sensitive port on the Chinese coastline. Give us this, please. Bring Cameron Murray on stream. He taught me lots of things. I'll try to get him on this week. There's a nice new documentary about the Liberals shitting the bed by the ABC. Should we watch that, perhaps? Yeah, when are we buying Qingdao Port? Give us the Qingdao Port. Give us Hainan. If they're going to complain, seriously, yeah, give us Sanya right next to the PLAN nuclear subs. Just, it's all market principles here. Seriously, fuck off. These efforts have brought remarkable improvements to the port, turning its financial situation from losses to profits, and contributing positively to local economic and social development. Fuck off, Zhao Chen. Zhao called on the Northern Territory and federal government to honor its binding commitments. When has the Chinese government ever honored a binding commitment in its entire fucking life? When? How long did the Sino-British peace treaty over Hong Kong last? How long did that last? When have the Chinese government ever honored a binding commitment? Literally, fuck off. We shouldn't even compensate them. I actually say expropriate the Port of Darwin. Leave them with nothing. It should never have gone. And the guys who did the initial deal, look into Andrew Robb, the former trade minister under the Liberals who did that deal. Look into him for corruption. That guy was given a new job. He was given, I think, $800,000 a year in China, like a massive salary, a do-nothing, like massive salary. It looks like a bribe. It looks like a bribe. Any reasonable person would say that looks like a bribe after you're literally negotiating away sovereign Australian territory. It is ethically questionable to lease the port when it was unprofitable and then seek to reclaim it once it becomes profitable. Sorry, fuck off. If you want to talk about binding commitments, exactly. How long did the Sino-British Joint Declaration last? 20 years. I'm literally older than a CCP promise. They made that declaration. They made that promise. Like literally in my lifetime, I'm literally older than the CCP promise. What a disaster. Such enterprise and project deserves encouragement, not punishment. No, fuck off. Get out of the country, Xiaochan. Federal Labor meets with potential port buyers. No, just literally expropriate it. Literally just expropriate it. Seriously, what do we have to lose? Australia doesn't own any of its own ports except for Gladstone. Yeah, what a shame. I was born in 1999, Lazar Master. Last week, MP and Special Envoy for Defence in Northern Australia, Luke Gosling, said he had been meeting with potential buyers. We want to make sure there's a good return on investment for the Chinese owners, Landbridge, as well. No return of investment. No return of investment. Expropriate it. Sorry, it should never have been sold. And literally investigate the original guys who sold it in Australia. Investigate them for corruption. Sorry, no return on investment. We've no interest in blowing this up into anything or putting a time limit on negotiation. The port needs infrastructure development. Sorry, expropriate it. Yeah, the troops should march out of the Darwin barracks, lift the boom gates, and then say, thank you, China, for the beautiful upgrades. Thank you for investing in our port infrastructure. We're fucking taking it. We're expropriating our ports. Our reason, Australia's back. Why the hell are Australian ports being sold to foreign owners? Take them back. Just send the troops in. Yeah, literally, Andrew Roberts needs to be fucking investigated. I'm going to get up that $800,000 deal. I'm going to get that up. Oh my God, how beautiful is this, guys? How fucking beautiful is this? This is the guy who helped negotiate it. A secret letter to former Trade Minister Andrew Robb reveals that his consulting deal with a company closely linked to the Chinese government contains terms so vague and ill-defined, he gets paid $880,000 a year, even if he does nothing. Is that not a bribe? Is that not a bribe? What the fuck is going on? Former New South Wales Supreme Court Judge Anthony Wheely, who examined the terms of the leaked letter from Chinese firm Landbridge, the Chinese company that owns the Port of Darwin, said that on the face of it, he's required not to do anything and still get a whacking great fee. So just imagine you're a minister of the Australian government, you negotiate a deal so favorable to the Chinese government that they then set you up post-politics, $800,000 a year for doing nothing. That is a bribe. That is a bribe. Sorry, Andrew Robb, under investigation. Expropriate the Port of Darwin. Send the Australian troops in. Open the boom gates. Just get the walkie-talkie out to say, sorry, open the boom gates. We're walking in. We're taking it back. Australia's back, baby. And just take it. Just take it. It's our land. It's our port. This is a revival of the unequal treaty concessions. This is a revival of the unequal treaty concessions. Only it's done by China to the West now. Sorry, we're taking them back. $880,000 a year to do nothing. To literally do nothing. How is that not corruption? Look at my government. Look at my government, dog. Look at my government. Look at the sovereignty of Australia. It's being sold out for so little. Somebody says firing squad. I disavow that, but many people are talking about that. But look, in previous centuries, people who did things like this would literally be tried for treason. Don't you think? In previous centuries, people who did things like this would literally be tried for treason. I mean, that is literally just a fact. It's very interesting to me. Very interesting to me. $880,000 a year for doing nothing after you hand over the Port of Darwin to China. In previous centuries, people would have been hung, drawn, and quartered for that. I'm not saying give it back. I'm not saying bring it back to those days. All I'm saying is in previous centuries, that is the case. People would have literally been hung, drawn, and quartered for that. Thoughts on Chris Bowen eating pasta in mass? Very important, actually, Dilby. Very important. Chris Bowen, the pasta mass scandal. That's a very important one. Let me bring that up quickly. Chris Bowen. Chris Bowen sparks outrage after he's caught eating pasta at Catholic Mass. Rude. Chris Bowen has been criticized by a Catholic priest for tucking into a bowl of pasta during Mass. The Minister for Climate Change and Energy attended a morning Mass at the Italian festival Festa della Repubblica at Club Marconi in Bursley Park, southwest Sydney on Sunday. Witnesses told the Daily Telegraph Bowen arrived midway through the Mass while people were taking communion before sitting in the front row where he began to eat his pasta. What the fuck, dude? What the fuck? Look at my politicians in Australia. Look at the politicians in Australia. We're struggling here. It's like eating beans in the cinema. Sometimes you just need a feed, bro. Absolutely. Sometimes you just need a feed. Sometimes you're just the Minister for Climate Change and Energy and you just have to walk into a cathedral and just sit in the front row during communion and just eat pasta. What the fuck? Reverend Anthony Fregelet, who was leading the Mass, told the paper Bowen needed to show more respect for the sacredness of the place. Oh my God, literally the priest who led the Mass. When you arrive halfway through the service, you should go to your place and be quiet. The welcoming is very... Holy shit, dude. Look at that. He's sitting in the front row eating pasta. What the fuck is going on? Oh my God, dude. You're in the front row during a Mass in the cathedral. This is wild. This is wild. Literally, Chris Bowen called out for eating beans in the cinema. What the fuck's going on? Can you imagine, dude? Can you imagine just like a senior minister in the government just walks into your church during Mass and just sits in the front row, feet up, starts chewing up pasta. What the fuck's going on? I'm actually crying, dog. What the fuck's going on? He just sits back, eats the pasta. Holy shit, dude. Everyone was taking communion. That's so fucking hardcore. What the hell, dude? My nan would have wooden spooned me for that back in the day. It's Bowen, his brain damage. His head is more caved in there. Holy shit, dude. Can you just imagine, though? Reverend Fregelet finished his Mass, which was in Italian, with a request for people to not eat during the service. Holy shit, bro. That's fucked. Can you imagine how... That's so bad, dude. He's not just a random guy. This is a senior minister in the government, and he's just chewing on fucking pasta in the service. Oh my God, dude. That's fucked. Is that the pasta? Beautiful. Sometimes you just need a feed. Sometimes you just need a feed. Can you just imagine just walking in halfway through, just sit in the front row, kick back, relax, feet up on the pew in front of you, feet up. You just... slurping up some pasta. That's fucked up. That's literally fucked up. I think that is probably one of the... Yeah, the pasta doesn't even look good. That is probably one of the stupidest things I think an Australian politician has ever done. I think straight up, that is one of the dumbest things I've ever heard from an Australian politician. What the fuck, man? Can you imagine? That is literally the smartest thing I've ever heard. Oh my God. A spokesperson for Bowen said he was not even aware it was a Mass. There's a Mass which Mr. Bowen did not attend, followed by public... Holy shit, dude. Everyone was doing communion. He did not realize the Mass was in the final stages when he entered the marquee as people were leaving. If he had realized, he would have waited a few minutes. Oh my God. That's beautiful, dude. I love it. That's the funniest shit in history. I love it, dude. Sometimes you just need a feed. Sometimes you just need a feed. We should go back to the Andrew Robb corruption scandal. Oh my God. Imagine you literally sign over sovereign Australian territory to the Chinese government, and then you just get $880,000 a year. Mr. Robb denied working on behalf of Beijing and defended his contract with Landbridge, saying he was not doing business in Australia, so could not be captured by the new legislation. Oh my God, dude. I understand my responsibilities as a former cabinet minister. The register is a political stunt. You would expect people like myself to have a clear understanding about the ethics of what I'm doing. You literally signed over the Port of Darwin to China, and then you took a fucking $1 million bribe. Fuck you, Mr. Robb. Oh my God, dude. Oh my God. This is full CCP. The United States, not China, was the biggest source of instability in the region. Oh my God, dude. $880,000 a year. Oh my God. Billionaire Yi Cheng is the owner of Landbridge. He is also a member of the National Chinese People's Consultative Committee, an advisory body that President Xi Jinping has directed to uphold the CCP's leadership without wavering. Beautiful, beautiful stuff, isn't it? Where are the mass demonstrations against the CCP interference in Australia? Good question. Good question. Where the fuck are they? A lot of people are asking that question. What a joke, hey. What a joke. Schizo interpretation. Assist by any means whatever with intent to assist an enemy at war with the Commonwealth of Australia. Australia is in an armistice, not a peace with China and Korea. Facts. Dude, that's a good point, Chris. In a way, he's actually assisting a country that has not concluded a peace treaty with Australia. Much to think about. Hello, Daniel. Hello from Thailand. How you going? What a fucking joke, hey. Honor its binding commitments. Fuck you. Honor your binding commitments in Hong Kong. Fuck you. What should I get up, guys? What should we watch? There's something I wanted to watch on the stream today. Should we watch the Liberal documentary about how Liberals fucked everything up? Just trying to find the video, my friends. Where is this? Hang on. Where did I put it? Oh, what went wrong? Okay, I think I've got it now. Let's watch it. We're talking Australian. Oh, the Jordan Peterson actually. Yeah, Jordan Peterson, pretty funny actually. Let's watch the Jordan Peterson one. Actually, let's do a question, guys. Should we watch Jordan Peterson and his atheist thing, or Battle of Cap Yong video by Australian Army in operation? Actually, goated. That would be cool as well. So much to watch. Battle of Cap Yong. Will you bring Tracing Wood Grains on stream? Yes, I do need to do that, actually. I do need to do that. I'm so sorry for Ukraine. Last night's drone Russia bomb. Yeah, it's disgusting. Let's watch a little bit of the Battle of Cap Yong, and then we'll watch the Liberal Party documentary. Who else here is a sensitive young male? Australian Army has had some very incredible moments. Australia. Battle of
August 1945. The Empire of Japan surrenders, ending the Second World War and its 40-year rule over the Korean Peninsula. Korea is subsequently divided between the United States and the Soviet Union along the 38th parallel, creating two administrative zones. August 1948. As tensions escalate during the Cold War, negotiations on reunification fail, and these zones become two separate sovereign states, North Korea and South Korea.
We're all sensitive young men in this chat.
Between 1948 and 1950, border tensions, including raids and guerrilla warfare, result in thousands of deaths for both sides. June 1950, North Korean military forces are now augmented by nearly 60,000 veterans from the Chinese Civil War. The Soviet Union supplies heavy weaponry, including artillery, tanks, bombers, and fighter aircraft. Soviet military personnel with extensive combat experience from the...
Andrew Land, you say, speak for yourself. Well said. Well, you're a sensitive bloke, Andrew. Well said.
Second World War, who were sent to North Korea as an advisory group, have already assisted in planning an invasion. 25th of June, 1950, a North Korean combined arms force crosses the 38th parallel behind artillery fire. South Korean forces, lacking tanks, heavy artillery, or effective anti-tank weapons, are forced to withdraw. In less than 4 days, the capital of South Korea, Seoul, is captured. The United Nations Security Council condemns the North Korean invasion and recommends military assistance be provided to South Korea. 7th of July, 1950, a multinational military force is established.
By the way, guys, if you're watching on the stream, you have to click like. You have to click like because it will reach more people. Let me check. How many likes have we got on the video? We've got 11 likes on the stream. Thank you, guys. We've got 30 live viewers. If you can leave a like, that'd be great.
The world's first attempt at a collective security intervention under Chapter 7 of the newly formed United Nations Charter, known as United Nations Command, over the course of the Korean War.
Guys, look at this. I love this. They are not putting Mongolia, Xinjiang, and Tibet. They're not putting that within the Chinese sphere.
22 nations will contribute to the US-led operation. Over 17,000 Australians will serve in the Korean War, with 340 paying the ultimate price. September 1950.
Look at that. They're not putting Tibet in there, and they're not putting Xinjiang. Beautiful. Lenny goes, why is it so fun? I put them on fast, but...
UN forces retreat to a small corner on the Korean peninsula, known as the Pusan Perimeter. Chinese forces...
It's crazy how close they came to winning.
deployed along the North Korean border now number nearly 260,000. However, North Korean supply lines are now stretched, whilst UN forces receive ongoing naval resupply, including 500 battle-ready tanks. On the 15th of September 1950, under the command of US General Douglas MacArthur, UN forces conduct an amphibious landing at Incheon. 2 days later, UN forces break out from the Pusan perimeter. 11 days later, UN forces recapture Seoul. 28th of September 1950, 3rd Battalion, the Royal Australian Regiment, arrives in Pusan and joins the 27th British Commonwealth Brigade. Australian forces now committed to the Korean War also include number 77 Squadron of...
They hadn't annexed Tibet yet. Well said. And we've got to recap. We've got to liberate Tibet. We've got to help them. We've got to go back to that time when Tibet was still free. What an important thing in history.
The Royal Australian Air Force and 2 Royal Australian Navy vessels, HMAS Shoalhaven and HMAS Bataan. October 1950, UN forces cross the 38th parallel. With minimal opportunity to train and prepare, under the command of Lieutenant Colonel Charles Green, 3 RAR distinguishes itself during combat in the vanguard of the UN advance into North Korea. With
UN crazy, Australian troops were near Pyongyang.
Forces now approaching the Chinese border, the President of the People's Republic...
Is that true that MacArthur said yellow monkey meat? Fucking hell. MacArthur was pretty unhinged. The JBP Jubilee video really showed how right-wingers love to play the defying game. Like, we'll watch that after.
Of China, Chairman Mao Zedong responds.
Oh yeah, the other day when we were debating the white nationalist guy, and his whole argument was just like, what's the original definition of the word identity? It comes from Latin. Like, that was his whole argument.
The 19th of October, 1950, Chinese forces begin crossing the Yalu River.
MacArthur also wanted to nuke China. Disavow. I disavow it. I disavow.
River. Under the cover of nightfall and undetected, China enters the war. Having advanced through the North Korean capital, Pyongyang, 3 RAR makes it as far north as Chongchu, where for the first time, Australian and Chinese forces engage in combat.
We literally came right up to the Yellow River. And we literally, guys, Australian troops fought hand in hand, right up close with the Chinese People's Liberation Army. Sea irradiate. Yes, MacArthur talked about a sea of irradiated cobalt. It was pretty unhinged. Almost total victory. Imagine how much better the world would be if North Korea had just been completely defeated and it was just a full Korea. I mean, literally, the world would have been so much better. Mr. F says spam tactics incoming. Yep, they then started launching their infinite human wave tactics.
On the 30th of October, 1950, Lieutenant Colonel Green is wounded by shrapnel from a high-velocity shell and dies 2 days later in a mobile army surgical hospital. He remains the only commanding officer of a battalion from the Royal Australian Regiment to die on active service. The war now enters a new phase. 300,000 Chinese soldiers now advance.
Yeah, Mao's son infamously died in this war.
South, driving back UN forces. And on the 4th of January 1951, Seoul is recaptured.
That's so sad, guys. Imagine if we had just completely won. It would have been so much better.
3 RAR, as part of the UN rearguard, is the last unit to leave Seoul via the railway bridge across the Han River before it is destroyed by US Army engineers. With UN forces continuing to withdraw, the Chinese advance south now begins to slow due to logistical difficulties. Targeted by the superior US Air Force, Chinese supply lines are now stretched and vulnerable, with resupply only conducted at night using pack animals, bicycles, and on foot.
China here.
UN forces are...
Post-independent South Korean army was trained by the Japanese. They carried out banzai charges against striking workers. Park Chung-hee did dark abundance. Holy shit, dude. The South Korea during that time period was not a free place. Let's just say that.
Able to push north again. And on the 14th of March, 1951, UN forces recapture Seoul, the fourth and final time the South Korean capital will be conquered. April 1951.
There's an amazing chat. North Korea is base. South Korea is degenerate. So true, bro. My grandfathers were both army engineers in PNG, didn't serve in Korea. Wow. Good on them for fighting in PNG. 2 dictators who dreamed of a united Korea.
Forces of United Nations Command continue to advance, driving Chinese and North Korean forces.
Like, look, back then South Korea was a dictatorship, but we know how South Korea changed. South Korea is now a democracy. If they had won the Korean War, then the entire united Korea would likely be a democracy today.
North of the 38th parallel. The advance initially meets little opposition until 700,000 Chinese soldiers counterattack, smashing into the
Yeah, this is when they started doing their Zerg tactics, their spam tactics.
UN line on what is now known as the Chinese Spring Offensive. Near the center of the UN line, along a key invasion corridor which leads directly to Seoul, lies Kapyong Valley. With the UN line in general retreat, nearly 20,000 Chinese soldiers advanced down Kapyong Valley, intent on breaking through the UN Central Front and recapturing the South Korean capital. The formation that will stand in their way.
The Australians were defending Seoul.
Is the 27th British Commonwealth Brigade, which includes 3rd Battalion, the Royal Australian Regiment. This is the story of the Battle of Kapyong and the vital role 3 RAR played.
South Korea was a fascist regime or authoritarian. Well, look, South Korea is a democracy today. North Korea is a horrible shithole. Drag select 80 wide infantry unit, right-click the bottom of Korea, go AFK. Berserk, don't appropriate my culture.
In protecting Seoul from communist forces. On the evening of 22nd of April 1951, at the northern end of Kapyong Valley, South Korea's 6th Division is almost immediately overwhelmed. Withdrawing in disorder, they abandon vehicles, weapons, and equipment. This chaotic retreat endangers the supporting British infantry and New Zealand artillery units, who are now also forced to retreat south. 23rd of April 1951. Fearing a Chinese breakthrough.
Support, Drew. Communist Mark Antony v. Dirty Capitalist Augustus.
The 27th British Commonwealth Brigade is ordered to establish defensive positions at Kapyong to delay the Chinese advance on Seoul for as long as possible. Under the
KMT in Taiwan wanted to do a cheese on the PLA with USA help and cut off the supply lines into North Korea. Wild idea. Yeah, literally insane. I don't think that would have
command of British Brigadier Brian Burke, the 27th Brigade deploys along a 6-kilometre front, creating 2 battalion defensive positions on either side of Kapyong Valley. Under the command of Lieutenant Colonel Bruce Ferguson, 3 RAR occupies Hill 504 in the east, while 2nd Battalion, Princess Patricia's Canadian Light Infantry, occupies Hill 677 to the southwest. 27th Brigade headquarters is located 4 kilometres further south. Critically, due to the large amount of ground required to be defended and the brigade being comprised of only 3 battalions, units were unable to offer mutual support. The 27th Brigade is supported by 15 Sherman tanks from Alpha Company, US 72nd Heavy Tank Battalion, and 1 company from the US 2nd Chemical Mortar Battalion. Upon Hill 504, Delta Company, 3 RAR, occupies the summit itself, with Alpha Company to the west, Charlie Company in reserve, and Bravo Company all the way across the valley on an isolated feature called the Island. With 3 RAR Battalion headquarters 2 kilometres to the south, in total, around 700...
If the chance ever came up, would you visit North Korea on a guided tour? I wouldn't while the regime is in power.
Australians defend Kapyong Valley. Australian forces spend the cold spring afternoon in rocky terrain, preparing defensive positions as a South Korean retreat turns from a trickle into a flood. South Korean soldiers and panicked civilian refugees flee southwards along the valley floor, running between the Australian positions. Australian forces now lie directly in the path of nearly 20,000 advancing Chinese soldiers.
That's crazy.
And it's around this time that communications begin to fail between battalion headquarters and the forward company positions. As night begins to fall, Chinese advance elements infiltrate and open fire on battalion headquarters. Chinese infiltrators now in
Korea was a nasty war. Insanity to think a war would happen again in such a heavily populated part of East Asia. I really hope it never happens again. Is YouTube chat behaving? YouTube chat's been pretty okay. I had to ban someone who was using the N-word because I don't want to get the stream banned.
Engage the US Mortar Company. Withdrawing from their position, the American mortarmen take only their individual weapons, leaving behind their mortars and trucks full of ammunition. 23rd of April, engage the humans, infiltrate and open fire on battalion headquarters. Chinese infiltrators now engage the US Mortar Company. Withdrawing from their position, the American mortarmen take only their individual weapons, leaving behind their mortars and trucks full of ammunition. 23rd of April, 1951, 21:30 hours. Now aided by the light of a full moon, Chinese forces launched their first attack against...
Dude, they were literally doing Leroy Jenkins run tactics. They were literally doing, like, Zerg run tactics. Holy
the US tanks, which are operating independently, forward of the Australian Bravo Company position. Despite lacking infantry support, the US tanks engage, inflicting heavy casualties in a target-rich environment. Chinese...
Holy shit, dude. They were literally just doing Leroy Jenkins run on a bunch of tanks. That's crazy.
Forces now seek to bypass by moving to the high ground on the side of Kapyong Valley, where they run directly into Alpha Company 3 RAR. Chinese infantry charge forward in wave after wave, only to be beaten back by grenades, machine gun and rifle fire. Close quarters combat commences. After each assault...
They literally did Leroy Jenkins tactics. Fact, Bad Empanada's great uncle Cedric looted Australian rations and sold them to the North Koreans who were sustained on stolen Vegemite. Well said, Landy. I've heard of that. We're going to have to investigate We're going to have to investigate.
Chinese officers can be heard regrouping their men by whistle blasts before the next attack is launched by bugle call, seemingly without any regard for the growing piles of Chinese bodies in front of the Australian positions.
That's crazy. Did you guys hear that? That's crazy.
Officers can be heard regrouping their men by whistle blasts before the next attack is launched by bugle call, seemingly without any regard for the growing piles of Chinese bodies in front of the Australian positions. New Zealand artillery.
Dude, no value for human life. It's like what the Russians did in Bakhmut times 1,000. It's insane. Aren't North Koreans in Ukraine known for waves of soldiers out in the open? Actually, to be honest, I don't think the North Koreans have been fighting like that in Ukraine. Commander, we have a river and a bridge ahead of us. What should we do? Charge. I mean, 1 million Chinese soldiers flooding across the other river. I would never go to war for my country. What the hell, 51 bud? Sounds like a real tweet from 1951. Heard about it from many people. Well said.
Still withdrawing south in order to secure new battery gun lines, provides only intermittent fire support. Under the command of Major Ben O'Dowd, Alpha Company 3 RAR now faces major Chinese assaults from 3 sides. Against a numerically superior enemy, one platoon is attacked with hand grenades until the fighting strength of the platoon has reduced from 30 to just 13 men. Under the command of Lieutenant Frederick Gardner, one platoon is forced to withdraw and consolidate.
Yeah, the North Korean meat waves in Ukraine are not like this. Nothing's like this, dude. This is literally Leroy Jenkins stuff.
Back with Alpha Company headquarters. 24th of April, 1951, 0300 hours. Australian forces.
Target-rich environment sounds like some kind of euphemism. Yeah, holy shit. It's actually like a full massacre.
Still hold Hill 504, while the US tanks continue to inflict heavy casualties. New Zealand artillery has now established new gun lines in the vicinity of Brigade HQ and is providing indirect fire support to 3 RAR. As dawn rises over the Kapyong Valley, Lieutenant Colonel Ferguson orders 3 RAR Battalion headquarters to withdraw 5 kilometres to the south so he can re-establish communications with the forward Australian company positions. In the confusion of the withdrawal,
this is battalion-sized meat waves. Literally 20,000 troops is crazy.
Chinese forces are able to capture 3 Australian prisoners of war, including Private Bill Madden. Although the immediate situation for Australian forces has temporarily stabilised, 3 RAR's forward company positions are now 4...
Yeah, this is the crazy thing. In Ukraine, where the Russians were doing meat wave tactics, they were doing like small little units of like 3-4 guys at a time. And we're talking here like it's literally thousands of guys at a time.
Kilometers inside enemy territory, and supplies are running low.
Yeah, surprisingly, guys, the North Koreans in Ukraine I've actually heard that they were quite competent in their fighting.
In the morning light, Chinese forces now become easily identifiable and are quickly targeted by artillery and tank fire, as well as the Australian forces remaining on the high ground. Between Alpha and Bravo companies, Chinese forces are highly exposed on the open rocky ground and are forced to withdraw under fire, leaving behind hundreds of casualties.
Hundreds.
24th of April, 1951, 07:15
Island
hours.
charge, yeah, dude.
Ferguson orders Bravo company to withdraw and consolidates closer to Alpha and
dude, not battalion, it's division-sized waves. Crazy.
Charlie companies in order to form a more defendable battalion
They actually had the tactics of like, you know, like the ancient war, like they had like ancient war tactics. This is crazy.
position. 2 hours later, just as Bravo company arrives, the order is rescinded, and Bravo company is ordered to reoccupy its previous position. 5 platoon leads a frontal assault back.
Yeah, North Korea did send the best of their best. They sent their best troops, their most hardened troops. By the way, guys, if you're watching, please leave a like. It will help us reach more people. YouTube will recommend it to more people. So I'd really recommend it. I'd really be appreciative if you can leave a like. Let me see. I think we've got how many have we got? We've got just checking. We've got 15 likes. If you're watching, please leave a like, guys. It'll really help us.
Towards the vacated Bravo company position. Chinese forces locate.
Yeah, despite how bad Russia was in this war, they adapted better than this. Yeah, this is like literally like the worst military tactics ever. Yeah, of course. Max says we no longer have such a decisive position. Of course. I mean, China at this time period was like so utterly impoverished. And now they are at near peer. They're now at near peer capacity.
Located on a forward knoll, respond with heavy fire from machine guns, rifles, and grenades. With 7 Australians wounded, including the platoon commander, 4 platoon takes over. Under the command of Lieutenant Leonard Montgomery, a desperate bayonet charge is conducted. Close quarters combat commences.
Charge. Holy shit.
Amid fierce hand-to-hand fighting, Australian forces clear the Chinese from the knoll for the cost of 3 Australian lives and 2 wounded.
Holy
By the end,
shit.
81 Chinese.
Why did Mao care so much about the Korean conflict? Good question. I think I mean, it was right after they established the People's Republic. I think he viewed it as a massive matter of prestige. It's really interesting. He even had I think it was his son who died in Korea.
His bodies lie on the rocky ground.
Someone said this is a shameful L for Anglo troops. How, dude? Like we won the Battle of Kapyong. What are you talking about?
However, 4 Platoon makes no further progress. Chinese forces now occupy the old Bravo Company position in strength, and Bravo Company is ordered to withdraw. Having failed to dislodge Alpha Company overnight, Chinese forces now...
Russia seems to be getting uppity near the Finnish border. Thoughts? Is that true? Delusion of grandeur, Andrew Landu. Well said.
Attempt to outflank the forward Australian positions by seizing the high ground of Hill 504.
Now, here's a comment I fully agree with. China and Korea are just parts of Greater Hungary. So true. The entire world is actually. Oh, I assume they lost. No, dude, the Battle of Kapyong is like a famous Australian victory.
Under the cover of mortar fire, Chinese infantry launch a series of relentless assaults against Delta Company's forward platoon position. Under the command of Lieutenant John Wood, 12 Platoon holds firm.
The Japanese involved in the Korean War, that might explain the meat waves coming from Manchuria. No, there was no Japanese involvement. Drew, don't trust that shit, man. Dawa. Thank you, Dawa. Hungry is hungry. I get that a lot, Viet Tran. That's good. That's good. Actually, they're part of Albania. Well
through the morning, killing more than 30 Chinese soldiers at the cost of only 7 wounded Australians during 6 separate attacks.
Dawa says, Drew, you are the best ever. Thank you. I love Tibet. Free Tibet. We were actually just discussing Dawa just before. We were talking about how we're going to liberate Tibet.
New Zealand artillery plays a critical role, demonstrating superb accuracy and proving the devastating effects of artillery fire against massed infantry. However, 3 RAR is now at serious risk of encirclement, with resupply and casualty evacuation becoming increasingly difficult. Under the weight of the sustained Chinese attacks, 27th Brigade Commander Brigadier Burke orders 3 RAR to withdraw back to brigade headquarters. 24th of April, 1951, 1500 hours. As Delta Company prepares to withdraw, disaster strikes. A US airstrike on Chinese forces goes wrong when a marker fired from a spotter aircraft lands on Delta Company's position.
The Americans bombed Australia.
2 US aircraft drops napalm onto Delta Company's position.
Oh, gee. The Americans dropped napalm on the Australians.
Killing 2 men and causing severe burns and shrapnel wounds to several others.
Oh, that's so
As the second US aircraft approaches, Captain Michael Ryan runs out of cover and under fire waves the marker panel to identify the Australian position. The second US pilot breaks off his attack.
That's so
Still in contact, 3 RAR now withdraws. With no sleep, having endured relentless Chinese assault.
My God, the Americans dropped napalm on us. Fucking hell. L in the Yuan dynasty, L in the Ming dynasty, L in the Qing dynasty, L in the Republic era, L in Korea, L in Vietnam. Well said. China bros, I don't feel so good. The Joseon dynasty was a tributary of the Daising Jarun Qing. Suspect it was a matter of enforcing CCP hegemony in East Asia. Well said. Normal A10 things. Some of the kill rates Australians got in the later stages of the Papuan campaign were crazy. The shittier Japanese battalions would banzai over and over in the same spot against prepared machine guns. Dude, it's crazy. Like, honestly, Australia has hit so far above its weight in military history. Like in World War I, World War II, Korea. It's actually pretty amazing what the Australians have done. Yeah, oh my God, American moment. Literally dropping napalm on the fucking Australians. Just fucked up. Our very own USS Liberty moment, my friends. So sad. Fucked up. Albania has huge stockpiles of Soviet and communist Chinese AK-47s and bullets, like in the movie War Dogs. Classic American. Hey, buddy, guess who's back? Well done, white Australian Zoomer. Vietnamese Australians. Vietnamese experience. Yeah, fucked. Reminds me of the end of World War I. Would you be in support of a much more powerful and aggressive UN army? No, because if the UN had an army today, it would literally just be like used by Russia and China. Bad Empanada's great uncle Klepto Cedric was struck by napalm, explaining subsequent genetic deficiencies in the family. Very well said, Mr. Landy. Very well said. I think a lot of people have said that actually. Yesterday, I predicted Hassan Piker would be unbanned after 1 week. Turns out it was 1 day. That was so fucking cringe. Free Palestine from Hamas. Well said. Didn't more British troops die to friendly fire in the opening of Desert Storm than enemy attacks? Yeah, I've heard that fact as well. Drew, for your young age, we are proud of your dedication, your hard work for the country who don't have freedom. Thank you, sir. We will free Tibet. We will free Tibet in our lifetimes. Drew, not at all comparable to USS Liberty. I was joking, dude. I was literally just having a laugh. Last Skinner War, but it wasn't used by them then. Hassan Piker will be suspended again. We will make sure it happens. When the Wehrmacht flies, nobody takes cover. When the Brits fly, we take cover. When the Americans fly, everybody takes cover. I don't know what this
holds through the night, Major O'Dowd now takes control of the battalion's forward company's withdrawal. Fighting a well-disciplined rearguard action and obscured by a smokescreen, the Australian companies leapfrog each other southwards. Under the cover of nightfall, 3 RAR
Free Tibet, and Tibet belongs to the Tibetans, not China. Well said.
achieves a clean break from the pursuing Chinese forces, and by 2300 hours on the 24th of April 1951, arrives at its new position along with nearly 39 Chinese prisoners of war. To the southwest, the 2nd Battalion, Princess Patricia's Canadian
Remember Pakistan v India? What happened to that? I think they just basically stopped after a ceasefire, which I guess is good.
light infantry is completely encircled by Chinese forces. So dire is their situation that Brigadier Burke personally flies over Hill 677 in a Douglas Dakota aircraft equipped with loudspeakers and announces, "You are on your own, cut off from any support. Fight bravely." The next day, for the cost of 10 killed and 23 wounded, the Canadians still hold Hill 677. The Patricias,
Crazy.
with tank, artillery, and air support, inflict more than 1,000 Chinese casualties.
Why is Max against the Korean War? Why is Max asking Australia not to be involved in the Korean War? That's so stupid.
Anzac Day, 25th of April, 1951. The Chinese advance down Kapyong Valley has been halted. US forces launch a counterattack, allowing the 27th British Commonwealth Brigade to withdraw.
Dawa, you're being very nice, mate. Thank you. Drew is the kindest and compassionate person that I have ever seen before in an Australian country. Thank you, Dawa. That's very kind. I'm not that good, but thank you. Once again, asking you to watch Andor. I will watch it. I'll make sure. Ever heard of Yeah Hair? PRC made propaganda. Interesting. It was funny. We were watching Battle of Chongqing, the Battle of Lake Chongqing. We're watching that yesterday. Very funny. We're watching the Chinese propaganda effort they made about, fighting the Americans in the Korean War, and it's just like so clownish. Bro, please tweet out your Twitch link so I am not alone. Okay, I will. I will try my best. Please comment on the Twitch, guys. If you're watching on YouTube, go to my Twitch. Hang on, I'm going to post the link to the Twitch. Live stream on Twitch. Okay, I'm posting the Twitch link. I've posted it. We've only got one person there. The guy there is the bravest guy in history. Max, your roundabout is subsidizing eyes of the stream. Just like the British used to do, use us as cannon fodder in their bullshit wars. How was Korea a bullshit war? Like, North Korea invaded South Korea. We have an interest in stopping that. Drew is the greatest living Australian other than all current and past Essendon players. Thank you, Mr. Landy. Very kind of you. Very funny. Why wasn't Russia able to veto this? Russia boycotted the UN Security Council during the Korean War. It was really stupid. I don't know why they did that. The Battle of Lake Changjing is amazingly bad. Yeah, dude, it's such a good movie. G'day, Champion Drew. Sorry, been extremely busy looking after the old chook. What's on the agenda tonight? Hello, mate. We've been watching some Australian military history videos on the Battle of Kapyong. We might watch some other stuff as well.
In good order. The stubborn defense of Kapyong Valley by 3 RAR, along with Canadian and US forces, delays the Chinese advance by 48 hours. With the UN front line still in general retreat, this delay, along with the Battle of Imjin River, allows UN forces to consolidate at a new defensive line further to the south. Communist forces never recapture Seoul. For the next 2 years,
the Australians helped save Seoul.
Thousands die as the war rages on, but little territory is actually exchanged. On the 27th of July, 1953, the Korean Armistice Agreement is signed.
I so agree with this comment. Australia needs more Lebanese women. Thank you, Weber. Thank you for that very strange comment. Drew, you are different and blessed. Thank you so much, Dawa. Very nice of you. I love the Tibetans. They're so nice. We made the biggest man-made crater in Western Europe during World War I. Yeah, we've got crazy military history.
Signed by North Korea, China, and the United States.
We've got some
but
crazy
not South
military
Korea.
history.
The Korean demilitarized zone is established. Fighting ended. The Korean War technically ongoing. As of 2024, North Korea is estimated to have an arsenal of 13 nuclear weapons. United Nations Command continues to monitor the DMZ, which remains one of the most heavily militarized international borders in the world. Yeah,
the USSR was boycotting the UNSC because they were mad about the PRC not being represented at the UN. It's so funny, though. What a counterproductive boycott.
During the Battle of Kapyong, 3 RAR lost 32 men killed, 59 wounded, and 3 missing, taken prisoner of war. Chinese casualties may have been as high as 5,000.
That's crazy. For like 80, we had 80 casualties and we took 5,000 casualties against China. That's insane. And if you look at, that's actually sad. If you look at this photo, like these guys look like fucking 12-year-olds. The Chinese soldiers in the Battle of Kapyong look like they were fucking 14. Fucking crazy, guys. Dawa, your compassion and love and kindness mean so much to us. Thank you, mate. That's very kind of you. Thank you. Why not show that orange crusty bread talking at the West Point Military Academy? Bro, dude, look at these guys. Look at these guys that they captured. They look like fucking 14-year-olds. That's fucked.
3RAR is awarded a U.S. Distinguished Unit Citation, now known as a
Says, please be safe whenever you go for support. Thank
Presidential Unit Citation by U.S. President Harry Truman. The Royal Australian Regiment, which in 1951 includes 1st, 2nd and 3rd Battalions, is awarded the Kap Yong Battle Honour, one of 11 awarded over the course of the Korean War. Today, the Kap Yong Battle Honour is still emblazoned on the regimental colours of all 7 battalions of the Royal Australian Regiment.
That's awesome.
The Korean War, sometimes referred to as the Forgotten War, was one of the most destructive conflicts of the modern era. Today, Australian Defence Force personnel...
We're watching on Twitch. We've only got 4 people there, but, you know, normally we've got like 1 person there. Thank you. If you're watching on the Twitch, subscribe, please. Please subscribe on the Twitch.
Still deployed to United Nations Command. The conflict unresolved, the Korean Peninsula nuclearized, and peace a distant prospect.
Let's see some other. This is a really good channel. I'm going to subscribe. The Harem of the Australian Profession of Arms. Beersheba, Kokoda, Gallipoli. Should we watch, guys? What should we watch? Gallipoli or Kokoda? Maybe Kokoda. Kokoda is obviously more positive. We've got some good viewers right now. We've got 32 people watching live on YouTube. Guys, if you're watching live on YouTube, please hit like. And if you're watching on Twitch, please comment. We've only got a couple people there, but you know, I've basically only just started the Twitch. Leave a comment, guys. I'd love to. Snazzy Scotsman says, "Good evening, Pookie." Thank you, Snazzy Scotsman, for joining. My brother always looks at you and he loves you. Oh, I'm very kind of you, man. Thank you, guys. Gallipoli is very sad. That's why I wanted to watch Kokoda, because I thought Gallipoli would be too sad.
July 1942, and Australia is under attack. Japan has joined the Second World War, attacking British, French, Dutch, American, and Australian.
Gallipoli was a disaster. Put on Milner Bay. That's where my 2 grandfathers served. Okay. I'm still waiting for the CCP to apologize for going to war against the UN. Facts.
In territories in the Pacific, with nearly 3,000 Japanese landing at Gona on the northern coast of New Guinea. All that stands between the Japanese war machine and the prized Papuan capital of Port Moresby is a small group of inexperienced Australian militia. If the Japanese capture Port Moresby, Australia's northern maritime...
And at this time, guys, at this time in history, Port Moresby and Papua New Guinea was under official Australian jurisdiction.
Approaches will potentially be vulnerable.
El Dingo says, "What's up, Pavo?" Hello, El Dingo.
This is the story of the Kokoda campaign and the jungle combat that protected the Australian mainland from the fear of Japanese
PNG was
invasion.
an Australian territory. It was an Australian territory like how the Northern Territory is a territory today. It's crazy, right? It's crazy to think about that as PNG literally being part of Australian jurisdiction. And Gough Whitlam decolonized it. Amazing history. I love history. It's very interesting.
At Gona, the Japanese advanced quickly south through the jungle towards Kokoda on bicycle.
Check out Hyper-Hysterial History later for the best Australian World War II stuff. I fall asleep to it and dream of fighting off waves of Japanese. That's so
and
funny.
on foot. Outnumbered,
What is it?
a defensive force comprising troops of the Australian 39th Battalion and Papuan Infantry Battalion deploys between Kokoda and Gona, intending to slow the Japanese advance long enough for Allied reinforcements to be flown into Kokoda village.
It's the 7th point of the Federation Star. Amazing, right? People wouldn't know that history today. Yeah, Gough Whitlam gave it back.
The only airstrip in the area.
This defensive I think it's a good thing. Like, I think it would be crazy if Australia was like running Papua New Guinea today. It's unfortunately it's a very hard place to exist in. Yeah, I'm going to look into hyper-hysterical history. That sounds interesting.
It's codenamed the Maroubra. With the defensive force finally overrun at Oivi, the last village before Kokoda, the defenders are out of time. 28th of July, 1942. The first significant battle of the campaign commences at Kokoda village.
What geopolitical implications today do you reckon it would have had if Australia held on to PNG? I mean, probably the biggest geopolitical implication is, I mean, we've been spending a lot of time trying to stop PNG from doing military deals with the Chinese. I mean, I guess we wouldn't have to deal with that if we were still in charge of PNG, but PNG is one of the poorest and most separate, like fragmented places in the entire world. There's like literally thousands of different languages, I think, spoken in PNG. And it's very much a kind of like failed state. 800 distinct languages in PNG. It's very much basically a failed state. It's sad how hard it is over there. There's a lot of violence. Max says PNG would be better off economically if Australia were still in mission. I'm not sure about that, Max. I'm not sure. Let's buy them a footy team. That'll fix it. I mean, it actually seems to have done the trick, though. Like, it does seem to have worked.
Around 100 Australian and Papuan troops defend the village, The lead element of the Japanese force is more than twice that size. Under the command of Lieutenant Colonel William Owen, Australian forces...
It's not 200 languages, it's 800 in PNG. 800 languages in one country. Like, basically, every single valley, every single mountain valley is like its own, like, completely fragmented civilization. It's amazing.
Deploy around the edge of a tongue-shaped plateau, which provides visibility over the road from Gona. Under the cover of darkness that night, the Japanese commence their assault on the Australian position. Fire tears through the night, but Maroubra force stands firm, responding with rifle fire and grenades. Close quarters combat commences. The high ground advantage of the Australian position is negated by Japanese mortars and a single Japanese artillery piece which shells the defenders. Australian casualties mount, and Owen is killed while rallying his troops in defence. He is the battle's most senior casualty. With Japanese flanking attacks threatening to surround Kokoda village, the remainder of Maroubra force withdraws south to Daniki. The Japanese choose to consolidate their position at Kokoda village rather than continue the advance. Meanwhile, the exhausted remnants of Maroubra force arrive at Daniki, where Major Alan Cameron assumes command. 4th of August, 1942, having hiked...
I want to watch that hypo-hysteria guy now. 800 languages, that's incredible. Drew, what about white farmer genocide in South Africa? Trump says it must be true. I mean, look, South Africa is not a good place right now. There's a lot of racial violence, unfortunately. They have LLMs and Starlink. They could have a national language in one generation if they tried. Tech makes it easier for remote societies to grow faster. I don't know about that. Japanese were scared of the Australians because we would engage hand-to-hand. It's crazy. We fought very hard. Oi, mate, shrimp on the barbie. Thank you. We've got a comment on Twitch. Thank you for watching on Twitch. Subscribe as well, guys. Would really appreciate it. Wanting to travel to PNG. I mean, yeah, go to PNG.
North for 5 days along the Kokoda.
It can be dangerous, like, just heads up. I'm pretty sure it can be pretty dangerous, but I'm sure you'd be okay if you prepared yourself.
Trail. The bulk of the Australian...
Hey, Drew, the ABC doc about the Liberals was pretty interesting. I recommend it. Should we watch that, guys?
39th.
Guys, okay, let me poll the chat. Should we keep watching the Kokoda campaign, or should we watch this one by Hypo-Hysteria? And it's Kanzuk, a great power of the 21st century. That'd be very interesting. Or should we watch the Liberal Party documentary at the ABC? What do you guys reckon? What should we watch? I'm interested in the chat's thoughts. The Kanzuk video does look really interesting. I think I probably want to watch the Kanzuk video. Yeah, not the whole 3 hours. No, you get machete. Well, all they would have to do is design a curriculum for it, build that, then distribute. Dude, Mr. F, it's so much more fragmented than that in PNG. Hypo is a slow burn. Hypo. Kanzuk. Drew, Robbie Barwick told me that during World War I, Australian factories were all set up on train lines to be instantly converted for war production. Japanese looked and said it would be too hard to conquer. I don't know about that. Interesting. I don't know anything Robbie Barwick says is true, but... guys, what should we say? We've got a couple different comments. I think a lot of people are saying Kanzuk and Hypo. Weeb is saying Liberal Party. Max is saying watch Kokoda. This is the problem of having ADHD. I want to watch all three at once. ABC doc, so I can watch an Aussie commentator explain shit. Oh, thank you, Dawa. That's very nice. Maybe, okay, look, listen. Maybe for the internationals, we can watch the ABC doc. I do want to finish that Kokoda one though later. A lot of interesting stuff on YouTube. I love YouTube. Watch Milner Bay. Isn't there a poll function in... Actually, let me see. Let me try to do a poll. I don't know how to do it. I've never done that before, but I'll try to do a poll for everybody. I'll poll the chat. What do you guys think about Kanzuk? I think in principle it sounds cool, but I don't know if it would actually be possible. But it could potentially be very cool. Hang on. I'm trying to work out how to do a poll. Yeah, I'm not sure how to do the poll, guys. Sorry. Look, I'll watch the Liberals one. What's 10 minutes of it?
There are good members good candidates who have lost their seats or their
What is the Liberal Party documentary going to tell us that we don't already know? I did hear it was really good though. So
ambition,
let's watch 10
and I'm
minutes of
sorry
it.
for that.
There's no reason to think that we won't disappear over time if we don't get our act together. That's how serious this challenge is for the Liberal Party.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
The Liberal Party is in a world of pain, shattered by their worst election defeat.
We alienated women, we offended public servants, we offended multicultural communities, we insulted people who live in the inner cities. It was almost as if we were running out of new people to offend.
Australians actually said, we've been trying to tell you and you're not listening, so now we need to send you a very, very strong message.
Have you hit rock bottom?
I think the answer is no, there's further for us to go.
The coalition
So
split for the first time in decades.
I don't take a backward step in putting the National Party's best interests on the table in the Australian Parliament.
I'm a sensitive young man too. Type 1 for Libs or 2 for Kens. Okay, guys, type us. We got 1 for 2. Who cares about the fucking Liberal Party?
Within days, they were ready to reconcile.
I had a brief meeting.
All right, we've got 30 people watching live on YouTube, guys. If you're watching live on YouTube, leave a like, please. It'll recommend it to more people. I'd really appreciate it, guys, if you can leave a like. Very important to help us reach more people with our live streams. We've had a smaller live stream today. It'd be great if you could leave a like so we can reach more people. Okay, I think... Listen. We'll watch 5 minutes of the Liberal documentary and then I'll go to the Kanzuk one.
With Susan Ley, and she made an offer.
Susan Ley is just hopeless. She's never going to be the Prime Minister ever.
There are also deep divisions inside the Liberal Party.
Will the party unify now behind Susan Ley?
Well, I guess that is the
Can we start the Reform Australia Party?
The question now...
Wait, what did she
Behind
say?
Susan Ley?
Well, I guess that is the hope.
The question now, can the party of Howard and Menzies ever get back into government?
Our first task is to make sure we are listening
Isn't it crazy that it's so bad for them that the question is literally, will they ever return to government? Fucking hell.
to the Australian people.
Is that a concession that they...
50 fucking S's. Yeah, dude, that's Susan Ley. So, guys, for the non-Australian viewers, Susan Ley, she spells her name S-U-S-S-A-N. She added an extra S to her name because she believes in numerology and she thinks that the extra S gives her luck. It's actually so unfortunately insane.
There wasn't enough listening to Australian voters over the last term.
Clearly, we weren't listening well enough.
Peter Dutton sidelined Jacinta. He refused to talk about culture. I think Peter was instinctually very much in the right place. One way or another, we weren't able to bring it home.
The people you have to persuade to vote for you live in the centre ground of Australian politics. And if you spend your time in an echo chamber of far right-wing opinion...
Dodo asks, is that true? Yes, literally go to her Wikipedia page. She literally changed her name. She added an S to her name because she believes in numerology. It's literally on her Wikipedia page, guys.
You're never going to get them.
Some people think the Liberal Party should lean into some of these culture wars.
Well, there are some people who say that, and I think they're nuts.
In this episode of Four Corners, we speak to some of the key figures in the now decimated Liberal Party room. This is a crisis about the party's diminishing appeal to Middle Australia. They're fighting for the party's heart and soul in a contest that could redefine Australian politics. Winter's come early for the Liberals.
Nothing is for certain in this world. And big businesses and...
I do think Andrew Hastie's a smart guy. I do think he's a smart guy.
Winter's come early for the Liberals.
I've had a phone call with him and met him. He's a smart guy.
Nothing is for certain in this world. And big businesses and great companies fail all the time. I think we face an existential crisis. If we don't define who we are, what we stand for, and who we're fighting for.
Since they were last in government, the party has lost more than 30 lower house seats.
2022, there was a lot of anger directed at us, and that you could feel it.
Good to be back in Parliament, Senator. Nothing to say. Enjoy your day.
Shell-shocked MPs are meeting for the first time since the electoral wipeout that left them without a leader.
Feeling confident today?
Looking forward to a Liberal Party room meeting.
Fake news, fake news, fake news, fake news.
Yeah, Con, it's literally not cultural spelling. It's literally fucking numerology. Let me just quickly, I want to verify this for the chat because it's so unbelievable. Like, people might not believe this. It's so funny. So if you look at this, right, Suzanne with 2 S's, and if you go to, look at this. Leigh initially said that she changed her name from Susan to Suzanne after reading about numerology, although in a 2025 interview, she said that as a rebellious teenager, she added the extra S to annoy her family. She had to change her story. It was for fucking numerology. It's insane.
Enjoy your day.
Dude, that should itself be disqualifying. You should never lead a party in Australian politics if you believe in numerology. I'm sorry.
Shell-shocked MPs are meeting for the first time since the electoral wipeout that left them without a leader.
Feeling confident today?
Looking forward to a Liberal Party room meeting.
Fake news, fake news, fake news, fake news.
Alex Dench is such a
Big
cringe lord.
news in the party room is the defection of Jacinta Nampijinpa Price. Her sudden switch to the Liberal Party angered the Nationals.
Jacinta's done enormous damage to her reputation, hasn't spoken to the party, hasn't spoken to her colleagues in Canberra about this.
Angus, I've been a fighter all my life.
The decision to run with
Drew, do you really like that jacket? You seem to wear it a lot. It's very comfortable. Yeah, literally lose it before she starts to. She added an extra S to her name because she believes in fortune telling. Crazy. Yeah, Jacinta fucked up as well. I mean, she switched over to the Liberals and then suddenly the coalition splits. I mean, what a disaster. Guys, if you're watching on the YouTube, please leave a like. We are trying to reach more people. The more likes you give the video, the more YouTube will recommend it in the algorithm. I think we've got 22 likes on the video. Please leave an extra like. I'd really appreciate it, guys. It'd be really good if you can leave a like.
Angus Taylor to lead the party.
We have such passion for this country, for our party.
Upset some Liberals too.
Angus Taylor has insulted every Liberal woman by saying, look, none of you are quite up to the job. I've had to go and recruit someone else.
Do you think it was wrong to think that you can go for a position in the Liberal Party without having been in the party room?
I should change my name to Stephen Sane. When she changed her name, she's guaranteed that she will be the Liberal Party leader at next PM. Numerology vindicated. So true. That's very fact-check true. I'm going to become tech. What are your thoughts on AUKUS nowadays? I think it's unfortunately dead. I can't see it happening because Trump isn't going to give a submarine to Australia. Alex Antich thinks that he's like a MAGA guy in the Liberal Party, and the Liberal Party's just cringe.
I think there's a way of doing things.
This guy should have been the leader of the Liberal Party. He's the only smart one there.
And there's a natural order to the way the parliamentary party runs itself. So it's always a challenge making transitions across. There was frustration, no question.
Well, good morning. The Liberal Party has met and we have determined that the new leader of our Liberal Party is Susan Leigh.
Congratulations.
How does it feel to be the first female leader of the Liberal Party, Susan?
Yeah, exactly. Because he's smart, he didn't want the poison chalice.
Is it worth a switch, Senator Price?
Making comments in due course.
Was it worth a switch? Oh my God, dude.
It is time to step up.
Yeah, Hasty too smart to do it. Also, he's already eyeing off life after politics, young family, I believe. Look, I think he can go all the way to the. I think he's got it within him to be a leader one day. But yeah, the Liberal Party is really, really bad right now. It's crushed. Yeah, look, I mean, I think you're right, Con.
Regroup and rebuild for the Australian people.
You decided not to run for leader. Why not?
Timing is really important in political life. And the most important thing to me is my marriage and my children. And I need to provide leadership to the Liberal Party in whatever form that takes.
The provisional member for Goldstein, Tim Wilson, is the only Liberal likely to win back a seat from a Teal independent.
Tim Wilson's good fun. He's a very funny bloke. I actually asked Tim Wilson if he could join the stream, and he messaged me back saying maybe in the future. So I hope he'll join the Drew Pavler show. Will there be new parties born out of this? If there's any split, they're done. Oh, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. If there could be splits, maybe. Ted O'Brien. Nah, I'm not a fan of Ted O'Brien. I think he's said some like pro-China apologia stuff before.
Leadership ambitions?
What I have is ambitions for this country. I have ambitions for my party to do better, to win. And so I absolutely have ambition to make sure that they steer the future of this country. And I'm going to do that unapologetically and resolutely in at least this next 3 years.
The party's own polling showed Peter Dutton was deeply.
I was at Tim Wilson's election party where he lost to Zoe Daniel. Yeah, it's crazy. On the night, everyone thought that Zoe Daniel had won, and it's just crazy. It's just crazy how it switched.
Unpopular with many voters, particularly women.
What if Barclay McGain does a Jerry Maguire and says to walk out of the Conservative? I don't know if anyone would be following Barclay. I'm not sure about that.
Australians in their political leaders are looking for people who are authentic, warm and competent. And because of that sort of stoic style, he never came across as warm. And also I
reckon a new far-right party is slowly on its way in, and then a more centrist Liberal Party will remain. First gay Prime Minister based Tim Wilson. Funny. It's interesting. I reckon we could see a reform style stuff in Australia. The first gay Prime Minister of Australia, Drew Pavley. No, fuck off, guys. I'm straight. Thank you. Barclay Fassar of Trash Island. I don't even know if Barclay is in the LNP. I think he might have gotten kicked out. John Gordon was the first gay PM. Is that true? Is that true? I'm not even sure. Is that true?
I'm sure there was something.
Yeah, look, people are talking about Gerard Rennick as maybe being a kind of Reform Australia. It'll be interesting.
People said, well, what don't we know? So there was a question about...
I think Max is right that Australia pretty much largely rejected sort of like Trumpian style politics of the election.
Authenticity. But as someone who had the privilege of serving with him in Parliament, he was a warm person, he was an authentic person, and he was quite clearly competent.
The persona of Peter, or what the media portrayed
They should change the name to the Liberal Party. Well said.
Of Peter was done over a number of years. And by the time we got to the election campaign, that was pretty solidified. You can see it in the images of him that are used for stories, in the lighting that's used, in interviews. All of this combined, it ultimately created a persona that wasn't the true Peter.
But he's responsible for his image too, right? That toughness came back to bite him, didn't it?
I guess the portfolios that he had over a long time and the tough decisions he had to make did play a part in that. You ask a question about Peter and the unpacking of the election campaign. We should look at how our leaders are perceived and communicated about within the party, and perhaps...
What about Julian Leeser as opposition leader? He's a smart guy, but I'm not sure about whether...
And the campaign machine should have done some work on this a lot earlier than what was done.
The alarm bell sounded for me before the campaign. The first jarring note for me.
I love how they dance around the obvious, complain about lighting or Dutton's alleged personal toughness, when the reality was he was obviously always too physically unattractive to be electable. Look, I think that's literally the sad reality. I think that is unfortunately a huge part of politics. Our Reform UK party would have been One Nation. Is Hanson wasn't. Dude, Pauline Hanson. The difference between Pauline Hanson and Nigel Farage is that Nigel Farage has 30 IQ points on her. So it's not going to be Pauline Hanson. Yeah, Keith Wallahan was a smart guy. It's, he was a smart and nice guy, and it's, maybe it's a shame that he lost the seat.
Was when we said that we wouldn't support the idea of Australia being engaged in an international peacekeeping force for Ukraine, if there was one. And I thought to myself, that's odd. I mean, we have always been the party that's been proactive about upholding the international rule of law. Defence is one of our strong suits. And I also thought that is not what John Howard would have said. And I thought that was...
Albo is regarded as an international sex symbol, as I recall. That's funny. But, Albo, to become Prime Minister, he lost 20 kilograms. He did actually put some effort into his appearance and stuff. And you do have to do that.
So it was so off-brand.
Oh my God, the visit to China. Oh my God, when Albo went to China and they called him a handsome boy. My God. Literally the Chinese premier called him a handsome boy. It's just crazy.
Many Liberals are angry about the way Peter Dutton and his office developed policy before the election. During the campaign.
Guys, 31 live viewers on YouTube. Thank you very much. Please leave a like on the video. The more likes, YouTube will recommend it to more people in the algorithm. So I'd very much appreciate it if you can leave a like, guys. It would be very helpful. And please remember to subscribe as well.
Shadow ministers had policies rejected or announcements put off with little notice. How would you describe the campaign that the Liberal Party ran?
I think it was very centralised, and I think there was a lot of information that the Australian people had to process in a very short space of time. So in short, we had a communications problem.
Andrew Hastie wanted to release a more detailed defence policy.
It became very difficult to talk about defence during the campaign without a policy.
Were you making it clear we've got to get a detailed defence policy out?
Well, I just assumed that we were going to announce it in the first week or two, and then it blew out to the week of Anzac Day for whatever reason, which I...
Did you ever get an answer on why?
It hasn't been explained yet, and we would have liked to have had a lot more detail a lot sooner. There's no question about that.
Did you feel like you were back?
Hastie would have done so much better than Dutton, seriously. Yeah, no, like literally it's quite sad. Dutton has alopecia, and alopecia basically means you lose your eyelashes, your eyebrows, you lose your hair, you lose all hair on your body, I'm pretty sure. So honestly, it's actually a sad thing. I mean, like alopecia is not something that you can control. And I had a friend in high school whose brother had alopecia, and it's a very sad disease. China Loving Dutton is based. Lives bleeding out on ABC Loving. Lovely. It's called the Trump factor. I don't think Hastie's defense policy would have changed the election result that much. I think you're right, Con. But listen, I do think Hastie overall is a nice bloke. So
banging your head.
And he is smart.
There was a level of frustration, yes.
I'm very proud of the education policy that we delivered.
I think you're right, Josh. I think you're right. I think Hastie is playing it cool with a plan to take the reins, because I don't think anyone thinks Susan Ley is even going to lead at the election. I don't think anyone even sees Susan Ley leading the Liberal Party into the next election. Why didn't Dutton consider wigs as an alternative? But dude, it's not even just your top hair. You literally lose your eyebrows, you lose your eyelashes. So it is a pretty brutal disease, alopecia. I've known people who've had it, and it's pretty sad.
But unfortunately, the policy was buried, and we only had the opportunity to announce a few measures.
Who buried it?
I don't know. It was done by campaign headquarters the Thursday night before the election. My media release was withdrawn, and a lot of incredible hard work by my team and many others right across the coalition unfortunately didn't see the light of day. There were too many policies that were left on the cutting room floor, and I think that was a really big problem, not just in education, despite the very good work of many shadow ministers, too many taxation policies that were not pushed forward, housing policy delivered on the run, a defence policy looking like an afterthought.
We support flexible working arrangements, but we don't support the fear campaigns put out by the Prime Minister.
Yeah, Susan Ley is not supposed to survive. Like, it's pretty sad. It's like literally a suicide squad position.
Home ownership is so critically important.
Dutton could have worn a different wig every Friday. Very true.
I mean, we're saving like mad, but it doesn't look like we'll get there in the near future.
There's now a Port of Dendong soundboard sound on the Discord. Thank you, bro. Thank you. I appreciate that. That's cool. People are generally not elected on foreign policy issues unless extremely pressing the key electors, i.e. the recent Canadian election where Trump repeatedly threatened to annex Canada. Yeah, that's true.
Future.
We can make Australia great again. We can bring Australia back to...
That was one of the dumbest things that was said in the election campaign. That haunted the Liberal Party so much when Jacinta Price talked about making Australia great again, like, you know, obviously a conscious appeal to MAGA.
Glory.
People, including women, including young people,
Not a good message when like the majority of Australia hates Trump.
didn't know what our policies were. The policies were out the door, just too late for Australians more broadly to understand what we were selling.
We've got 29 likes on the YouTube video, guys. If you can leave a like, I'd really appreciate it. We'll be able to reach more people.
What we were pitching to them. Why would they be voting for us?
Our key policy of cheaper fuel. We announced it, and it wasn't sort of for another 4 or 5 days that we had collateral that we could use on social media, free-to-air newspapers and the like. It was just nuts that we didn't have that sort of material ready to go. Something went off the rails, and I think it was centred in campaign headquarters. We were, frankly, in a very competitive position at the start of 2025, and that completely evaporated to the point where...
It's really crazy, guys. Like, it actually is nuts, because I think in January, like, everybody was expecting a Liberal government. So it just, the timing of the collapse is really crazy.
We are at an historic low as an opposition. And I think there are some people who might want to consider their...
Yeah. Trump does not have a positive approval rating in any other country other than Russia, Hungary, and Serbia.
Futures as
Great country,
in a very competitive position at the start of 2025. And that completely evaporated to the point where we are at an historic low as an opposition. And I think there are some people who might want to consider their futures as a result of that.
Is this the worst election campaign you've ever seen?
Melinda McIntosh win back the Teal seats. I don't know, guys. I don't know if that's even possible. The problem is this is the problem for the Liberal Party. If they go really hard on winning back the Teal seats, they will then get smashed by the far right. And that's a reality. If they go really hard on trying to win back the Teal seats, they'll get smashed by the far right. They'll lose a lot of votes to their right.
I've seen a number of really bad election campaigns. This was among the worst, certainly, but I think the problems weren't just about the election campaign. I think that the Liberal Party became, or at least was allowed itself to be seen to have become a lot narrower. That the people it was addressing were a smaller and smaller group of
Liberal Party need an Asian leader. So true.
Australians. And we were unsympathetic to very important constituencies.
Like what constituencies?
We alienated women, particularly women who wanted to work from home. We offended public servants. We offended multicultural communities, particularly with this announcement that went nowhere about a referendum on dual citizens. We insulted people who live in the inner cities.
George Brandis has a big hate boner for that. So he was the guy who, back when there were Australian citizens fighting for ISIS, he tried so hard to prevent the government from removing their citizenship if they were dual citizens. So he's obsessed with that issue, and I think he's really wrong on that. But
we didn't really have an offering for young people, particularly students. We offended other minority groups as well. It was almost as if we were running out of new people to offend.
Was the leader, Peter Dutton, part of that problem?
Well, I'm not going to criticise Peter Dutton personally. Having taken the Liberal Party to its worst ever defeat, plainly, as he acknowledged himself on election night, he bears a share of the responsibility. It's a shared responsibility with everyone involved. I mean, I was handing out Liberal how-to-vote cards on a polling booth on Saturday afternoon, and the Labor Party person there was handing out Labor Party how-to-vote cards with the message, vote Labor for lower taxes. And I thought, for goodness sake, that is, broke my heart.
Does it worry you that you've come across as a bit of a nasty party?
I think it's pretty funny. They went into the election promising higher taxes than Labor, which is actually crazy.
That we have a long way to go yet.
For the Liberal Party.
So that we are appealing to aspirational Australians. We want to be the party of choice for aspirational Australia.
Lose voters to who? One Nation, 6.4% of the votes.
And it is important that they understand where our policies come from. And policies...
Max, I was actually thinking of watching Hypernormalization on one of the streams. I really like Adam Curtis. He's a really smart guy.
Are ultimately an outward expression of a party's values.
Some people think that your campaign wasn't right-wing enough.
No, I think they're wrong.
To be honest, I don't think most people would say they disagree with making Australia great again. But dude, the thing is, everybody associates that phrase with Trump. And if you say that phrase, people are going to know that you're trying to link it to Trump. And people don't like Trump in Australia.
Why are they wrong, though?
Understand where our policies come from. And policies are ultimately an outward expression of a party's values.
Some people think that your campaign wasn't right-wing enough.
No, I think they're wrong.
Why are they wrong, though? They say you didn't fight for values.
I think we did very much demonstrate what our values are. But I think what we did was we focused on the wrong things when we were demonstrating those values. If we focused on our economic credentials, if we focused on making Australia a better and more prosperous country, returning and restoring, living standards in a more meaningful way, then I think we would have connected with people.
I feel so bad for Suzanne Ley walking around like, she's got no chance.
There are competing narratives as to how the party should rebuild.
It's like she's been sent into the slaughter. Drew, what are your thoughts on Claire Lehman and Quillette? Good, bad, in between. I love them. Claire's a very nice lady. She subscribes to me on Twitter. We're friends. I want to have her on the show sometime. We don't agree with everything, but I really respect her principled stance as a conservative against MAGA. Liz Truss for Liberal leader. So true. It's like saying all lives matter. We all agree, but it's the association. Yeah, dude, it's the association, of course. The lodge needs to be renamed the Fortress of Righteousness. Even better because the vote's not lost to far right. Well, I started watching Trauma Zone, fell asleep right away, and dreamt of those Polish girls. Trauma Zone is a really good one. We should watch it on the stream. There's simply no fixing most of the political issues in Australia. Australian electorate is too conservative, not politically but aversive to change, i.e. nuclear power housing market. I think, sadly, I'm potentially scared that Aussie Ginger is correct. I'm going to start that comment. I'm very worried that it's impossible to fix these issues in Australia. I'm very worried about that, I have to say. I am really worried about that. I am worried by the prospect that it's impossible to change. I think that's definitely the case when it comes to housing. Like, you have to basically take a policy to the electorate of lowering house prices, and nobody wants that. More neoliberal rubbish will deliver greater prosperity. Quillette or awesome. Yeah, we love Quillette. Get Australia back on track was lame. They should have said make Australia the greatest or make Australia lucky again. I mean, but the problem, dude, if you say make Australia again, people immediately think of MAGA. Claire is great. Yeah, dude, I think a lot of people here in the chat are fans of Claire. Lol, all these random liberals that are popping up on this episode would have been much better than Dutton, Angus Taylor, or Susan. I don't think anyone wants the poison chalice, though.
One view is the Liberals must return to the political centre if they ever want to form government again.
Is it your objective to take the Liberal Party back towards the middle ground of politics in a more moderate way?
Our Liberal Party reflects a range of views from all walks of life that are welcome in our party room, and that is one of our great strengths. But I do believe that government is ultimately formed in the sensible centre.
The other view within the party is that despite the botched campaign, the Liberals should not fundamentally change course or shy away from controversial topics.
Whenever Peter said there'd be one flag, not three, when he said that we needed education, not indoctrination, when he said that he found all these welcomes to country and acknowledgements of country overdone, I think there was a surge of support for him.
The answer is not to move to the centre, but to move forward as one united team, continuing to bring together classical Liberals and Conservatives in our great party. And that's a very important job, and that is the best and most important way.
It's such a low energy party. Imagine saying our great party at this point in history. It is a very low energy party, isn't it, at this
forward for our party.
Victorian Senator Sarah Henderson strongly believes the party had been on the right track under Peter Dutton before the campaign began.
In January this year, we were at a high. Peter Dutton had got us into a winnable position. He prosecuted the importance of standing up for community safety, standing up against the anti-Semitism crisis in our country. He was very, very strong on national security and, of course, on the cost of living. But I don't know what happened, but when we started to just talk about one thing, which was the cost of living, all of those values that Peter espoused, which was so important to so many Australians, were no longer being talked about, and I think that was a mistake.
The people you have to persuade to vote for you are the people who didn't vote for you last time but are open to persuasion. And those people live in the centre ground of Australian politics. And if you spend your time drinking your own political bathwater and only living in an echo chamber of far right-wing opinion, you're never going to get...
It's a funny comment by Max. What is a classic Liberal? A scrawny shop owner with gnarled fingernails. Oh, wow. We do not live in Rupert Murdoch's Australia anymore. The spell is broken. I just think that a lot of the anti-Murdoch stuff is cope. Like, I think the Murdoch papers exist because half the population is conservative, and there's always going to be an appetite for conservative newspapers. Tony Abbott is a great political strategist. He has that Trump instinct. He can see the cultural battlefield. He collapsed when he was in government, though.
Yeah.
Some people think the Liberal Party should lean into some of these culture wars, that in fact Peter Dutton didn't go into enough of them. I've seen this critique.
Well, there are some people who say that, and I think they're nuts.
Now, positions have been advertised that include those required for cultural diversity and inclusion advisor positions. Such positions, as I say, do nothing to improve the lives of everyday Australians.
Before the official campaign started, Peter Dutton gave a speech where he talked about getting rid of diversity positions in the public service. There were other key moments, basically having a government efficiency role.
So why did Abbott get removed? He was just a bit bumbling in government. He put in place a budget that was really hyper austerity. He put in place like a really hyper austerity budget, and then he did crazy stuff. Like he brought back knighthoods, and then he tried to knight Sir Prince Philip, which is the Queen's husband, the late Queen's late husband. And I think he just was perceived to be too right wing in government, and then he got cooed. I mean, I think this is a pretty standard opinion about Tony. Like, he's considered to be a very powerful opposition leader, but in government, he's not a very effective governor. The ghost of Roger Ailes runs America. Weep Abu. The Liberals should listen to Tony Abbott. That way we can guarantee we will never have to suffer Liberal government again. Poison chalice or not, I respect people who will lead the fight no matter the stakes. People who sit out because it's all so hard don't get my respect. I mean, fair enough. And I'm the type of bloke who loves a challenge, but imagine being Liberal leader now. It'd be horrible, I'd have to say, right? Can't even figure out what was supposed to be so radical about Dutton's agenda beyond the ill-conceived nuclear power thing. He wanted more or less the status quo beyond that in every respect. Yeah, true.
What did you think when you heard about those?
I just thought it was unnecessary. I think that was driven by
Australian knighthoods sound fun. Imagine being called Sir Drew Pavlou. Next time Bad Empire calls your name, you can demand Sir. Well said. Drew should, like if you think Drew deserves a British knighthood. So true.
Call, very false politics where we see something working well overseas. Why don't we grab it and bring it to Australia? And look, I just don't, I didn't think it would be unpopular, but I thought it was easy politics, high calorie, low nutrition politics.
I think there is going to be a near revolution that comes with the Trump administration in relation to a lot of the woke issues that might be fashionable in universities and at the ABC.
In 22 and 25, for whatever reason, we ended up in cultural issue territory, which was not healthy for us.
You're talking about culture wars, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm talking about culture wars. I mean, look, a classic example would be climate change. If you're talking about climate change as a moral issue, and by the way, I'm quoting Tony Abbott here, if climate change is a moral issue, we're losing votes. If it's an economic issue, we're winning votes. If we're talking about coal versus nuclear versus renewable versus whether it's even happening.
I agree, knighthood Drew. So true. Will Don Jr. run in 2028? I think he would fucking fail very badly if he tried. Maybe Don Jr. versus fans. What a crazy time that would be. Don Jr. would be worse than his dad. You can say, Sir cunt, you Argentinian peasant. So true. I think there's a code. Dutton did defeat the voice. It wasn't the culture war stuff that made Dutton lose. It was the perceived closeness to Trump. It's the perceived closeness to Trump. Can we knight Adam Bent to Sweden? That's funny. Next time you are in the news, demand sir. If I never hear the word woke again, I'd be very happy. Well said, Mr. Wax.
At all, then you're in a culture war scenario, and it's like, yes, our opponents love that issue. Why would we give our opponents what we want? And for so many years, that's what we've done.
I don't think that everyday Australians are particularly interested in culture wars. People have abandoned us in the cities because our messaging doesn't resonate with them. And they haven't gone to the right. They voted for Labor and the Teals because what we're selling them isn't aligned with them.
The man tasked with selling one of the most contentious Liberal policies is the party's new deputy leader. Some of Ted O'Brien's colleagues think it's time they dumped the policy to build government-funded nuclear power plants. I've spoken to many people that say it was a fizzer. In the
Bro with the red tie looks like a mob attorney.
electorate. Do you accept it?
I accept that every single policy that we took to the election, including
By
our
the way,
policy
guys,
for-
we've got 37 people watching live on YouTube. Thank you so much. If you're watching live on YouTube, please remember to subscribe and please leave a like. If you leave a like, YouTube recommends us to more people. So please leave a like. It would be really appreciated.
nuclear energy
I'd really
needs to be
appreciate
reviewed. The Australian people did not buy into what we were offering.
So you don't see it as a final say from voters on the issue of nuclear power?
Our job right now is to make sure we are listening to the Australian people and being very open about all of our policies.
Given the electoral result, though, if you were to keep nuclear and go to the next election with it, which I accept is 3 years away, that's a gift to the Labor Party, isn't it?
Honestly, right now, the Australian people have said to the coalition that they didn't believe that they saw in us a good enough reason to put us into government. Now, the reasons behind that is what we need to really understand. What we can't afford to do is take the election result and then rush to conclusions.
The focus has now turned to lifting the decades-old ban on nuclear energy in Australia.
37 viewers who rated. Guys, if you're watching, please leave a like. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
I think nuclear should be part of our mix, but I think the first incremental step should be to remove the moratorium. And if we remove the moratorium, then we should let capital markets do their work. And so if there is the potential for nuclear power in this country.
Yeah, Max is so right. They should see. I actually think nuclear is a good idea long term for Australia's energy mix, but really to campaign the way they did was stupid. They should have just said what we're going to do as a first step is lifting the moratorium on nuclear. Basically, right now it's illegal to build nuclear energy in Australia, and they should have just said we're going to lift the ban on it. We're not necessarily going to make a huge $500 billion policy. We're just going to lift the ban. And unfortunately, yeah, as Derek says, they made nuclear look stupid. And I think nuclear energy is actually a good policy, but unfortunately, they did it in a dumb way. They campaigned in a dumb way. They could have done it so much smarter. They could have just said we're going to lift the ban on it, and then you would have been able to have a much more productive conversation. In reality, what happened was that the Labor Party said, okay, Dutton wants to spend $500 billion on nuclear. He's going to raise your taxes. They shouldn't have given that free kick to Labor. They should have just said, we're going to lift the ban on nuclear, and then we will have a discussion about it. So, yeah, the way they did it was like just horrible campaign tactics, right?
We'll see people invest in that.
You want to dump the nuclear policy, don't you?
I just think it was going to be hard enough as it was. So my answer to you is yes, because it was going to be difficult to negotiate. Even if we'd started on it on Monday, if we'd won the election, right? Hard to deliver. 3 years into the future, it's going to be even harder.
It must be said that the Labor Party told a lot of lies about the nuclear policy, and it picked the costing, which was at the upper end of a very wide range of estimates from a not very reliable source.
Beautiful. We've got 36 likes now on the video. Thank you, guys. And that's why our viewership is ticking up, because we've gotten people liking it. So thank you so much, everybody who's been liking. You're helping our membership. You're helping our viewership go up. I appreciate it a lot.
I think there was both good and bad in the nuclear policy. What it did when it was
all they say, sup drooly ban followers. Yeah, drooly ban. That's a great term. The drooly ban. I like that. That is a good term. The drooly ban. The Liberals are supposed to be free market. They came across as command and control communists. No, Max, that's a bit silly. Like, I don't think the idea of government controlled energy when it comes to nuclear is a bad idea per se. I don't think public funding of nuclear is ipso facto a bad thing or communist. It's just like they campaigned in the wrong way about it. Do you think Albo will be successful in his second term? If his approval rating collapses, who becomes our alternative government? Well, listen, I think it will be interesting to see what happens. Right now, we still have a cost of living crisis in Australia. We still have really bad structural economic conditions in Australia. We've basically had a per capita for most of the time that Albanese was in government. There was a per capita recession. We've got some of the most expensive housing in the world. Sydney, I think, is the second most expensive housing market in the entire world after Hong Kong. It's not going good. It's not going good. And if there were to be a massive economic crisis, then I could definitely see, look, the Australian public can swing very heavily in elections. And I think I think, yes, if there were to be an economic crisis, this government, which has 94 seats, which is an amazing tally, the government could actually collapse if there is an economic crisis. I think the majority is built on, like, you know, the foundations. When you're looking at the material conditions, when you're looking at the economic conditions of Australia right now, the foundations of this majority are perhaps not that strong. I think it's probably a bit similar to Keir Starmer's election victory in Britain, where he won a massive parliamentary majority. However, at the same time, he very quickly became unpopular because of, you know, continued poor economic conditions. So listen, like, Labor people deserve the feeling of triumphalism right now, because, like, it is an amazing election achievement. But I think, you know, politics can change really fast, and the economic conditions in Australia are not necessarily right for any government. I mean, if the Liberal Party, like, I would literally, this is the funny thing, I would literally be saying the exact same thing if the Liberal Party had just won by 94 seats. So imagine Dutton had won 94 seats. I'd be saying the same thing. If the same conditions, that, you know, the fundamentals of the economy, they are bad. And I think, you know, it's very hard to see the Liberal Party coming back into a government right in the next term. That said, there's a lot of headwinds to come in the economy. So we'll see what happens.
Announced. Is it gave the opposition?
Steve Sane says is off. Thank you so much, Steve, for joining us. Steve Sane with the double S. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Steve. I appreciate it. I'm all in favor of government-run generators, by the way, but coming from them, it wasn't on brand. They spent their entire lives privatizing everything. I mean, that's a good point, Max. I see you. I see that. No, it's not. And all these lefties celebrating on Twitter, and I'm like, I wouldn't be celebrating on Twitter. Like you said, our economy is cooked, and I can't see Labor meeting at the moment. Listen, our economy is cooked, and I actually don't think either party is going to meet at the moment. Like, as I said, if Dutton had won 95 seats, I'd be saying the same thing. The economic conditions right now are really bad in Australian society. The housing crisis is a disaster. And if there were to be a really bad recession, I mean, everything does get thrown up really quickly. Yeah, Dutton won 94 seats. They'd rename Canberra to Trump Heights, probably.
Position, an alternative point of view to debate the government against Chris Bowen's effectively renewables-only policy. And I think it captured the public's attention. So I'm not saying that it was a bad decision, but I think we lost the argument.
AFD alternative for Drew.
We will not.
Drew, how do you respond to the criticism that the Afghan Mujahideen became the Taliban? No, it's not. It's not that straightforward. It's not that straightforward that the Afghan Mujahideen became the Taliban. Dutton should have said free energy for everyone in 4 years. Yeah, so true. Economic conditions are pretty good. I don't know about that, dude. Like, we literally have one of the worst housing crises in the entire world. Can make lots of money at Crown every day. Well said. Well said. Way too many machetes too. Well said.
Re-entering a coalition agreement with the Liberal Party. This is one of the hardest political decisions of my life.
The junior coalition partner pushed hard for nuclear to remain official policy.
Why, in this day and age, as an industrial economy, we should not avail ourselves of the backyard we have of uranium?
After 38 years in coalition, the Nationals walked away.
Susan's got a big job ahead of her. They are going on a journey of rediscovery, and this will provide them the opportunity to do that. Thank you.
We offered to work constructively with the Nationals.
The machete market is booming. GDP is going up. Beautiful. Would you debate Peter Slipper on the stream? Sure, dude. As I said, I'm open to debating anybody. What's the idea behind debating Peter Slipper?
And we asked for that respect in return.
The larger macro economy seems not bad, dude. It's not going that good. There's basically all new job creation in the Australian economy is coming in the public sector. There's basically no new job creation in the private sector right now. The economy is only expanding because of large migration and because of government funding of NDIS and stuff like that. There's no productivity growth. So it's not going good. The structural conditions are not going good when you don't have productivity growth at all. Max says get Rennick on the stream. I literally would. I'd have Rennick on the stream. It would be interesting. I would like to have Rennick on the stream. Housing is only a so-called crisis for the marginal renter, and they are mostly compensated by subsidies such as rental assistance. It's why you see little political organisation over housing. Where's rental assistance? There's not much of it in Australia. I don't think there's much of it in Australia. My rent is fucked. I want rental assistance. Yeah, as Mr. F says, 80% of new jobs in Australia are coming from government funding. I mean, there's not much productivity growth in Australia right now. That's what I was talking about. What if the National left and became like the equivalent of Reform UK? No, dude, it's not going to happen because they're too geographically concentrated. The Nationals once upon another time, they once tried to run in like the sort of outer suburban seats during the sort of Sir Joe Bjelke-Petersen era. And they were never really successful with that strategy. The Nationals have always basically been the country party. And Australia is one of the most urbanized countries in the entire Western world. I think it's like 80% urbanization rate in Australia. So, you know, their vote is very efficiently concentrated. Like for 7% of the national vote, that gets 15 seats, which is amazing for them. Because, like, you know, the Greens get more votes, but win 1 seat next to 15 of their seats. So their votes very efficiently concentrated, but it's not enough for them to actually be a viable third force in Australian politics. And historically, they've been very close to Liberals. I mean, in Queensland, they're literally combined party, the Liberal National Party.
Really believe that the coalition is stronger together.
What Susan Lee did.
Esoteric, post-ironic content is in the way to go, Drew. Rage farming is dead. Well said. Yeah,
Becoming leader was throw the entire coalition policy platform in the air, saying it was all to be.
But dude, Derek, here's the problem, right? There's no per capita growth. So yes, in absolute terms, the economy is growing. Like absolute GDP is growing, but per person, Australians are becoming poorer. Per person, GDP has declined in Australia. GDP per capita has declined as a result of the past few years. So it's very simplistic to say migration is helping the economy in Australia. It may be helping in absolute terms, but relatively, the average Australian is not actually feeling that effect. The marginal renter is overwhelmingly a welfare recipient, i.e. disability pension. That's why you don't get it. Dude, are you kidding? Like the rental vacancy rate in Brisbane is 0.8%. Like we're already nearing levels of rental affordability that's just like at crisis point, right? It's like 70% of Aussies that own their home. Yeah, dude. Like you see when among the younger generations, that figure has collapsed. And then you wonder why there's not going to be any young people ever voting for Conservatives again. Did you hear how Gough Whitlam destroyed a country party guy on the floor of Parliament? Oh, I think I might have heard that one. Tell me it again. I think I might have heard. I've forgotten it, but I think I've heard someone say something similar to that. The rate of birth still isn't smaller than the rate of death. It will approach that in the next few years. Good to see the Nationals going back to their roots. In that presser, Bridget McKenzie also brought up bank branch closures and breaking up Coles and Woolies. I like Bridget. Breaking up Coles and Woolies, I mean, people have been talking about that for years, but it just never happens. Hey, Drew, I have a question. If creating a being inevitably exposes it to suffering, is procreation inherently immoral? No, because creating a being also allows it to experience joy and the beauty of life. Immigration helped in the US. I don't know shit about Australia. Yeah, dude. So it's a little bit different in Australia. Like per capita, we had a per capita recession for 2 years over the past 3 years. So it's a different situation in Australia. That's why you don't get rental assistance. Let me rephrase. What if the Nationals, during their divorce, left the coalition and started to expand their electoral base to the suburbs and even cities, so they became that third option? I mean, they've tried that. I think they tried that in the sort of Sergio Bjelke-Petersen era, and it just doesn't seem to really work for them. And look, they very much. I mean, they've got a 100-year-old brand. Like they've got a very, very long historic brand as the sort of country rural party. It would be hard for them to break into the cities. Oh, yeah. In the early 1970s, during a noisy parliamentary session, Winton Turnbull said, "After all, I am a country member," to which Whitlam retorted, "I remember." Whitlam had a lot of funny quips. Whitlam was a genius for those quips. He was a really smart prime minister. I disagree with a lot of the things he did, especially like his policy on Indonesia and China and stuff like that, but he was a smart guy. The Nationals' 4 conditions that they have, the Liberals before they split, seemed base. What if life has no beauty? No, I disagree with you. I think there is a lot of beauty in life. Landlords exited the rental market in record numbers, lowering supply. Should we create a fully actualized sapient AI? So true, yes. That's the same in Canada, but isn't that also because immigrants are fucking poor, so they naturally have that effect without changing natives' wages? No, dude. It's just like, think about it, right? If your economy is in recession and you're just adding more people to it, in absolute terms, the economy is going to be larger, but the recession is still going to be happening. People will still per person be going poorer. Real per capita GDP is stagnant due to many variables, but immigration-driven population growth is partially responsible because it exceeds the rate the economy can increase the amount of capital per worker. Yeah, I agree with Aussie Jingo. He's right there. Nationals, CATA, People First coalition. I don't think we'll see that. So the rate of capital deepening and infrastructural investment cannot keep up pace with the rate of population growth. I think that's actually true. I think that's true when it comes to Aussie Jingo. If you bring 1 million poor immigrants and no one's wages changes, they per capita GDP goes down, but it's because immigrants are poorer. That's not what's happening, though. Would you go to North Korea with a fake passport? Christopher Hitchens. Did Christopher Hitchens actually do that? I don't think I would do that. I think I'd be at like a lot of risk. I think I'd be a lot of risk if I went to North Korea.
Reviewed. That was done without consultation with the coalition partner. It has been a significant breach of the relationship. I hope we can come together as a coalition in our national interest and the interest of our country. But if we can't, well, the National Party is absolutely prepared to do our job on behalf of the people that sent us to Canberra.
More immigration plus reduced red tape in business and construction creation. Listen, Dodo, like in Australia, we've got the highest rate of population growth in our history basically right now. And it's straining infrastructure so much. So it's very different conditions.
We were never going to have policy decisions settled within a week. So I do feel like it was a bit of a contrived set of reasons that they walked away from us.
I back Susan on her approach, and I am very disappointed that the Nationals walked, I think, so quickly away from the coalition agreement. I understand their passion and their commitment for the policies they wanted to see in the coalition agreement. I have a lot of support for those policies as well. I share a lot of those really strong views. The only way forward to, frankly, get rid of a terrible government, a government which is driving our nation off a cliff, is to unite very, very quickly with the Nationals and to be one very, very strong centre-right.
Yeah, North Korea's facial recognition technology nowadays, different times. Yeah,
force.
I wouldn't make it
going forward. Whether they
Australia is one of the biggest builder of homes per capita in the OECD. I've seen little evidence of an economy that is incapable of constructing a lot of houses. It's just that demand is too high. Yeah, literally that.
Or keep the promise to reach net zero by 2050 will be one of the major battles inside both parties.
No one lives in the centre of Australia. It's completely infertile desert, guys.
All right, let me ask you this question. Net zero is on the table. How on earth are you going to win back city seats if you're revisiting getting to net zero by 2050, which is a key climate goal?
Right now, no decision has been made. No commitment that we previously had has been thrown out. No commitment we previously had has been locked down.
Do you think you should stay committed to net zero?
Well, our party position is that we are committed to net zero by 2050 until that's obviously reviewed and stays or doesn't stay. If you are serious about net zero, then you have to get serious about nuclear.
What's the deadline for sorting all of this out?
Sooner rather than later. I think people take a dim view of politicians talking about themselves. We're serious professional politicians, but the decision of the room was to go.
Your per capita wealth should decrease. Dude, what are you talking about, Derek? Like, a per capita recession is not a good thing. A per capita recession is not a genius. Like, I don't understand what you're trying to get at. Not a good idea.
Just days after the dramatic split, New South Wales faced record floods.
Yeah, Max, the danger with the idea behind the super stuff, which with the danger of the idea of using superannuation to pour into Australian infrastructure investment, and I know that's a kind of like Rennick, that's like a kind of like Rennick that's like a Rennick LaRouche type idea. The problem is, like, if you pour that into unsound investments, you're crushing the retirement system of Australia.
The Nationals were now talking about reconciling with the Liberal Party.
I had a brief meeting with Susan Lee, and she made an offer. This is a positive step forward, one in which we've always said we'd be productive and constructive. Thank you.
Most Australians believe climate change is real, and we have to deliver energy policies that ensure that we reach our net zero targets and that we deliver stable power and power that is as cheap as possible.
Do you think that policy should be reviewed, your commitment to net zero by 2050?
The question of net zero, again, that's a straitjacket that I'm already getting out of. The real question is, should Australian families and businesses be paying more for their electricity? And should we allow this sort of hypocrisy at the heart of our economy to continue, whereby we sell coal and gas to India and China and we deny it to our own people? That's the question that I think we need to answer.
Honestly,
after a chaotic week,
honestly, Hasty has a point. I mean, we're shipping it off to China and Russia to burn it. I mean, sorry, we're shipping it off to China and India to burn this stuff. The emissions are still taking place. I mean, that is kind of hypocrisy, isn't it?
Liberals agreed in principle to the Nationals' demands on
It should only be invested in make money projects that grow GDP and productivity. Yes, I agree, Max, but you do have to make sure that it doesn't go into white elephant projects.
Nuclear power, supermarket divestiture, a regional future fund, and better mobile phone coverage. The details are still to be negotiated. Is David Littleproud's leadership now more tenuous? I mean, there were people who were speaking out saying you need to sort out this breakup, and within a day, he's put on ice the breakup. Where does that leave him?
Well, I think David has taken and led the party in a very difficult period of time. He had a Liberal Party that said they weren't going to respect our policy positions. And so David took that to the party room, and as a collective, we made that decision. He doesn't make captain's calls.
It's a difficult night for Liberals and Nationals around the country, as nights like this always are.
At the 2022 election, some statistics stood out.
Drew, would you get Stuart Bonds on? Yeah, I'll talk to Stuart Bonds. Tell him to come on the stream.
The majority of women of all ages favoured Labor over the Liberal Party. Just 28% of Liberal MPs and senators were women. In its review of that election, the party declared it could not survive if it failed to attract younger members, more ethnically diverse members, and crucially, more women.
Does the Liberal Party have a problem with women?
We don't have a problem, but we do have multiple issues. It is going to continue to be a revolving door of female members of parliament if the culture doesn't change. Western Sydney is one of our...
Shadow Cabinet Minister Melissa McIntosh holds the marginal seat of Lindsay. It's one of just a handful of Liberal electorates left in Greater Sydney.
Historically, women are in marginal seats, and it's been like that for a very long time. The height of the Howard days in 1996, there were many women, but they were all in marginal seats. Equality is one of our beliefs. We need to make sure that we are communicating that with women so they can get into the party, they can hold key positions within the party, they can put their hand up for pre-selection in seats that are winnable. Structural change needs to happen within the party. We need to encourage women. They need to feel like part of something, and that's going to take time.
The campaign was so blokey. I can imagine why women would think, well, what's this got to do with me? A guy pulling up in a big truck, and not a family car, but a big truck filling up with petrol.
We're in 2025. How could it be that the ranks of women in the Liberal Party are so abysmally low?
It's such an important question, and I think if we had the answer to that question, we wouldn't actually be having this conversation.
Do you need quotas?
I think we need to look at everything at the moment, and I think quotas as a circuit breaker in the current environment, given that we are at this crisis point, is something that we need to look at for a period of time to ensure that we get the balance of our representatives right, because relying on the organic growth hasn't had anywhere near the outcome that it's needed to.
We have to have a Liberal Party that respects modern Australia, that reflects modern Australia, and that represents modern Australia.
Susan and Ted will do a fine job of leading our party. They're people I consider friendly colleagues. I think she'll be a good leader, and she's also made history as the first female leader of the parliamentary party. So we can turn this ship around. I have faith. It's a huge job for Susan, and that's why we're going to be supporting her and getting behind her.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. She's a shining light for us now, and she is taking up her position in a historic way. And it brings hope and it brings optimism. And as a female colleague, I'll do anything I can to ensure that we are bringing other women, particularly young women, along with us, and we are forming policies that do appeal to women. But we are a broad church, not only in ideology, but a broad church in ensuring that we appeal to Australians more broadly. And that's the work that we're going to have to undertake in the next 3 years.
Will the party unify now behind Susan Lee?
Well, I guess that is the hope. I'll be supporting the leadership, obviously, because that's what we have to do if we want to do a good job in opposition.
Is it going to be hard for Susan Lee to be the candidate in 3 years?
Well, I don't think so. I'm delighted that Susan Lee was elected. If people care about the Liberal Party's success rather than their own factional games, they should give her a go.
There's no doubt in my mind that we can be successful at the election.
The Liberals will now review how the party failed so catastrophically at this election.
The Liberal Party kept saying the polling was better internally. But I want you to be really honest with me here. Did you know that the campaign was just wrong? Did you feel it in your guts during the campaign?
In varying degrees in different seats, you could actually see things shifting. And again, it wasn't consistent across those. But yeah, there was a significant difference at the beginning of the campaign towards the end.
You could tell people just didn't like the Liberal Party.
They weren't interested in hearing what we had to say. They disconnected from us. So I wouldn't even say they didn't like us. They weren't even listening to us anymore.
Flawed polling has been blamed for the false confidence the party carried all the way to election day.
I thought, gee, they must have polling showing that, there's a huge movement of votes.
Internal polling overestimated the coalition's chances. They targeted safe Labor seats in the outer suburbs while not doing enough to protect their own marginal electorates. Four Corners has learned the opposition leader had polling.
I just finished watching this. Yeah, it's actually a pretty good documentary. It shows how existential this crisis is for them. Women are often more conservative on public safety issues than men. Labor used to be the men's party. Interesting. Liberals meant to be a Liberal Party, not conservative. Tim Wilson has the right idea. Mob lawyer guy is back.
Polling presented to him on the Thursday before the election that showed 3% swings to the Liberals in marginal Labor-held seats. One party source said it was like flying with faulty instruments.
One of the greatest failures of the Liberal Party in this whole election campaign was the swing against us in Victoria, despite the headwinds that the Labor Party is facing there, and the fact that we lost even more seats in WA. It was incompetent. That result, more so than any other, speaks to we need to actually go back to basics here. There is something going completely wrong.
It's clear, obviously, that the referendum has not been successful, and I think that's good for our country.
Some in the party believe a significant mistake was made before the campaign began. The Liberal Party's own pollster has said they overestimated the number of so-called Labor defectors to the coalition. They wrongly assumed those who voted no in the Voice referendum were more likely to favour the coalition at the election.
We made decisions based on bad polling that was somehow so fatally flawed that we ended up losing seats we did not even think we were going to come near losing. It was a disaster. There's no two ways about it. The campaign was, from beginning to end, sadly, a failure, and the numbers bear that out.
We thought that somehow the result in the Voice was a precursor to a massive first-term defeat when they were very unrelated. I think that's quite clear. It was a big win for us at the time, but that didn't mean that people were going to vote for us on the more substantive question on who they want to govern this country.
Tomorrow, we must seek a new way forward with the same optimism.
There was plenty of downside for the Prime Minister, but the upside was that people also saw that he was prepared to politically die for something. It was a pretty big repudiation, but people also saw that he was prepared to go hard for an idea, even if he was going to fail. And I think you can't quantify that, but I think it reflected that people thought he had some convictions.
After such a resounding defeat, many Australians are now asking, what exactly does the Liberal Party stand for? This has been obviously a really bruising period for the Liberal Party.
Yes.
Have you hit rock bottom?
Look, I think the answer is no. There's further for us to go, but that's
There's further for
necessary.
us to go.
And so I think we put off a lot of arguments for a long time, and it's time to have it out. And I think when we do have those arguments, yeah, it's going to look very messy.
Blue, traditional Liberal heartland seats that are all going to. And one thing you can also note about that, it's all going to be women.
3 years ago, the Liberals lost their urban heartland to Teal independents.
My thoughts tonight are with all my colleagues who have lost their seats. My heart bleeds for you.
Our climate has changed.
Do you feel like Peter Dutton tried to win back those Teal seats?
No, I do not. I think he wanted to. I don't think the Liberal Party tried.
The Liberal Party has lost a series of seats over a prolonged period of time, and it has not grappled with, one, why do we lose them? And then two, how do we identify the specific challenges of how to win them back?
Tim Wilson sees the Bayside Melbourne.
Obo took the loss of the voice on the shit and moved on the chin. Dutton continued to obsess over it long after it was over. True. Try harder. Drew, would you say that you report on a per capita basis if there was a sudden baby boom making GDP per person decrease? That's not what we're talking about, dude. It's completely different. Good night, Super Base. Thanks for watching, mate. That's rock bottom. I would probably fantasize about being the PM to be a landslide like the one we just saw as a young star in his teens. Yeah, he literally would have fantasized about it. It's crazy. Literally 60-year prophecy.
The seat of Goldstein as ground zero for the Liberal Party.
I'm genuinely very proud to say that we are pleased to accept that we have won the seat of Goldstein back for the Liberal Party.
He defied political gravity, promising to be a different kind of Liberal.
In all of our campaign speeches, our messaging, it was very clear about the fact that we were going to be bold, we were going to be confident. We understood the national campaign was not going to help us. And that's because the national campaign was a Liberal Labor contest, and we didn't fit within that. We had to assume that on the balance of probabilities, it was going to drag on us.
Why would it drag on you?
Because the focus was not going to be on elections like ours. We were focused on other seats. People were saying abandon the Peel seats, all this sort of stuff. It's like, okay, fine, they're not going to design a campaign to help us. There were certainly times during in the lead up to the campaign where I said to some shadow ministers, more policy, please. And that's what I was hearing from voters. We've got some things, nuclear being a clear example. Again, I don't think you told the whole story, but it's good. I can tell the rest of the story at a community level. We should be doing more of that. We should be more bold and ambitious.
Do you see yourself as the future of the party now?
I see my role as being part of the future of the party. I've gone back to an electorate who has handed my ass to me on a platter, turned around and said, yep, I want to run again. I want the great privilege. And I'm going to go on. There'll be lessons to be learned, but we are going to build a better community and a better Australia together. And the results are there.
I think we met some weeks ago. Yes.
Tim Wilson believes his approach in Goldstein must be replicated in every major city.
There is no pathway for the Liberal Party to win back government without urban electorates in Australia's capital cities. It is that simple.
We will never govern again unless we get people in the cities to vote for us. That's where the vast majority of Australians live. If people in Sydney, Melbourne and Brisbane aren't going to vote for us, then we'll be sitting in an opposition party room in ever-diminishing numbers for a very long time.
That's true. That's literally true. It's impossible.
We'll rebuild from here. We'll do that because we know our values, we know our beliefs, and we'll always stick to them.
The Liberal Party faces an existential crisis. How it's resolved will determine whether it will form government again.
There's two ways to look at rebuilding. You can look at having a brawl and as a victor, or you can have it where somebody just puts forward a new way that takes everybody forward together. I'm much more in the latter camp because yes, there'll inevitably be disputes and disagreements, and obviously grievances of the past. But it's really what's the way forward. That's what matters.
Election day was catastrophic for us. We lost some outstanding members of parliament. We lost our leader. We lost shadow cabinet members. We lost people that had actually connected really well with their communities, and yet those communities voted against them. Our message didn't resonate with everyday Australians.
Australians, whether you're seventh generation, Indigenous Australian or a migrant, we should be speaking to all of them, but particularly migrant Australians. I think there's a rich story there. And it's funny, during this year, I got asked, what do you care about as a politician? And I have my 3 stars. I care about families, homes, and schools or education. And I was with some Chinese Australians and they said, Andrew, you're basically Asian. They're Asian values. And that's the point. They're values that speak to everyone, regardless of what your background is, because they're aspirational. There's no reason to think that we won't disappear over time if we don't get our act together. That's how serious this challenge is for the Liberal Party.
Well, actually interesting. Very interesting debate. Very interesting program. I found it very interesting. I want to say thank you to everyone who watched episode 42 of the Drew Pavlou Show today, the Sensitive Young Man stream. We covered Australian politics. We covered, some of the big issues of the day. Very interesting. We watched some Australian military history stuff. It's very interesting. I want to say thank you, everyone. Malachi was watching. Max Hooper. Aussie Gijo had some interesting comments. Con, thank you. You've been a very loyal viewer. I very appreciate it. Derek as well. Dodo. Pickles LeBlanc is always there. Zerinthius is always there. Super Bass. Mr. F. Yeah, thank you guys. Snazzy Scotsman as well. Thank you guys for watching all the streams. I really appreciate it. And remember, the Fortress of Righteousness is here. We're building the show. It's slowly building up. We won't ever give in. The Fortress of Righteousness is rising. And again, Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. Good night, everybody. Stay safe. Remember, share the Fortress of Righteousness with your friends. Share the channel, subscribe. I appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much. I'll see you tomorrow. We're doing this every single day for 100 days at the very least. And we're 42 days in. Who would have thought that I'd be this disciplined? But we've done it. We've gone so far. We're almost halfway. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. Lasermaster as well. Thanks for being a member of the channel. I really want to say I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. And Logi Australian. Yeah, it's really cool. We do have the live chat on the stream. It's really cool. Mert says long-range strikes for Ukraine are a go. Salute to you, Mertz. That's a great way to end the stream. What a beautiful message. What a beautiful message. Thank you, guys. I'll see you tomorrow. Never give in. Stay humble. And remember, the Fortress of Righteousness, we're going to build this thing up. Thank you very much.